Okay, I will edit my comments now.
Oh, I've been waiting.
One minute. This is such a wonderful thing that people are able to zoom in.
I know, I love it. Right, it really is. All right. Terrific, everyone in, Steve.
Let me just let one more coming in, what just as
Terrific.
joins us. And,
All right.
we got one more coming in. We call the owner. All right, anytime you're ready. Keep an eye, you guys. If it's come in the way.
When I get this fixed, I'll call you right back.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Bev doesn't know she's not.
Deb, you might want to mute yourself.
All right.
Thank you. All right, good evening. Welcome to the select board meeting of Wednesday, January 21st. Here at the Meriden Town Hall. It is also our first budget hearing. And SB2 hearing. We'll be getting to that. I think that's on the agenda for 6:30, right? Is that when it's been born? So we're gonna start with a few other pieces of business.
Yeah. Not that one. It's right there behind you.
Where?
There's a table.
Yeah, and then get to that. We will start with our approval of our minutes from our last meeting.
I didn't see any problems. I moved to approve the minutes as they are.
All right, and I will second that. All in favor? Aye. I should note, Ron Everhart is not with us this evening, and so I will be chairing. If you're wondering, we're down one, but we'll get through the meeting. Okay. All right, so we will move on to public comment. Is there any public comment? And I'm going to say unrelated to the budget hearing that we'll be having it at 6:30. So there'll be plenty of time for comment then. Anything unrelated to the budget that anyone is here to share with us or wants us to know about? All right, hearing none, we will move on to our department reports and we'll go this way today. Steph, should I just start us out?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm gonna make this really quick. So first thing, it's very important that people are aware that the Plainfield Community Power electricity prices are going up February 1st. I was working with Lee and Evan Oxenham, who have been spearheading this for many years now, so that we can help those that are, challenged by their budgets. It's very important that we get this information out to our residents. Quickly, Liberty customers could save about $36 by opting out of the Plainfield Community Power. Eversource customers could save about $126 by opting out between February 1st and July 31st. If you opt out, you can get back in. It's just during this period from February 1st to July 31st, there's going to be huge raises in the rates. So they're doing their due diligence to get this information out so that people that are on tight budgets, any of us are on tight budgets, they can eliminate these extra charges. It's time now to opt out. This flyer will be made available here at the town offices. It will be in plain fax. I will be giving it to residents on my home visits. We're going to deliver them through the food pantry. It's just really important that the word gets out about this.
Can you help me understand that the $36, is that for that entire period? If I'm a Liberty
Yes.
customer, for example, so it's not per month or per
No,
year.
it's
It's for
between
that whole
February
period.
1st.
I mean, I'd like to keep that 36 rather than give it to
Right,
Liberty as well.
right.
I just want to
Yeah,
clarify.
and Eversource, $126. That's huge.
That's
That could
huge.
be 2 people's monthly.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
it's
huge.
just crazy. So anyway, that's really good information. We need to get the word
Does
out.
the flyer tell you how to opt out?
Yes,
Okay.
yep, you can go right here. It's easy.
Great.
Yep. The next thing is January is New Hampshire Radon month. It's something that Kelly Ayotte has put into motion. Anybody in the state of Vermont can get a free radon test kit sent to their home. I have a flyer for that. Hillary spoke up a few weeks ago about her concern about radon, on the 120 sector of town. So I did a little research, found out that January is radon month. Anybody with, New Hampshire address can get a free radon test. This will also be in, plain facts, and I will leave a flyer up there of how to get your free test kit sent to your house. Dangerous Arctic cold temperatures are coming our way. We have to be very, very cautious. They're gonna be coming in for this weekend. The high may be 3 degrees with a wind chill. They're predicting about -18 to 20. So go get your groceries now and then just sit and watch the Patriots for the weekend. Don't go outside if you can. We also possibly could have some snow coming. So, hopefully that storm that's coming up through Georgia, North Carolina is gonna go out to sea in New Jersey. But if it comes up through, we could see significant snowfall.
Let's hope not.
Let's hope not. But yes, everybody prepare for these dangerous cold temperatures that are coming. Scam alerts. Couple senior residents have reached out to me. I know they've also reached out to the PD. Social Security, Medicare will not call you. They are scams. They will only reach out to you via mail, not email, not telephone. So please don't get sucked into that. If you have questions, give me a call Chief, call Sergeant DiPietro. But yes, be on alert for those scams. Also, the Easy Pass is circling back around again. Be careful of that one.
There's also one where New Hampshire DMV is sending out supposedly your license will be suspended if you don't reply. That's another scam.
Okay, good to know, good to know. The next thing after that is, the AARP free tax prep programs are taking place again. This flyer will be in plain facts, but, anybody needing assistance doing their income tax, AARP will be at the Upper Valley Senior Center starting February 3rd through April. And then also down at the Claremont Senior Center on Fridays, starting February 6th. So I'll leave that flyer here at the town office as well. Very happy that Mike just walked in, but the Carl Strong Foundation, we are back in business working on our community phone book. We hope to have something out by, the fall. We will have a table at school and town meeting so that people can update their phone numbers. So very excited about that. We have a group Zoom to get the ball rolling really fast on February 11th. So if you need to update your phone book, look for more information. It'll be coming with your phone number, and two excellent things that happened. At Plainfield Elementary School, when they got back from break, they have started a community service club. And so they invited me over to go and talk about what outreach projects we have in town. And they have so much energy. I love 6th to 8th graders. Anyway, they are ready to walk dogs and they are ready to shovel and pack, pile wood and whatever you need, they're ready to help. So if anybody knows of a neighbor that's had a knee surgery or a hip replacement, hasn't been feeling well, they just need an extra set of hands, let me know. We've got some great kids. Today, they actually made 12 containers of baked ziti, just in case we have a fire in town, so that we will have those readily accessible. And they threw in chocolate brownies too. So we have that, but there also can be our quote unquote local Meals on Wheels, so that I can deliver to a family that I know is struggling because of illness or just home from the hospital. We have a lady in town that has dialysis 3 times a week. There's another gentleman, and sometimes I leave a little care package on their front step. So that will come and help. Very handy. Next week, they're working with me at the food pantry to make our care packages for the month of February. So great group of kids. And then secondly, we had a fire department incident in town this past weekend where they arrived at a scene where an elderly couple had just returned from the hospital and they were locked out of their house. And fire department was very clever. They stuck one of the fire brigade kids through the basement window and came up and let everybody in. But during that whole process, These elderly people in their 80s have lived in town for 47 years, have never asked for anything from the town, ever. And when dispatch had, toned out the fire department to arrive, they still don't know who called to give them help. But just to know that they all arrived on an icy driveway, he was bringing home his wife. He had a heart attack in October. She was just in the hospital for a heart procedure. And to come home to find these people readily available to help them get into their home was just overwhelming. But then I get a call, one of the fire personnel texted me and said, are these people on your radar? I think they could really use a home visit. Their driveway's really icy. We're concerned about a fall. Can you help them? I said, I'm on it. So I called one of our young local contractors and I said, can you go and plow and sand? We're concerned about fall risk. No problem. 8:30 that morning, he was over there. The guy comes out in his slippers and his bathrobe, goes, hey. He goes, you got the wrong address. And he goes, no, this is part of what, all went on yesterday through the fire department and the community resources. He goes, no, you got the wrong address. He goes, no, this is serious. And so the gentleman had called my house and left a wonderful message to thank the fire department and everything. And that afternoon, I showed up at 3 o'clock because, of course, there was a broken window in their basement. The fire department had put cardboard up with duct tape, and in this particular window was their dryer vent. And so before the department left, they made sure the dryer vent was safe and the dryer could be used until it could be made safe again. So I met with the family. Well, they both were just in tears. Again, never asked the community for anything. And they were just so overwhelmed by the love and compassion that was shown by the fire department. They didn't feel stupid for locking themselves out. They felt like they really were cared for. And then when I showed up, they're like, we just can't believe this. This is nuts. And I said, well, as part of this whole process, we want to fix your window. So a handyman that works at my house and has done many projects in town went over yesterday, measured, and now the window is totally fixed. But I just want to say thank you to you guys for reaching out to me so that we could do a big wraparound hug for this family who's lived in town for 47 years. And they are so proud of our town, and even more so that, this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. So thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for sharing that.
I
And
feel
thank
like I
you.
want to applaud.
I know.
Yeah, no, it's just,
Thank you.
it just goes to show that, we are a very unique gem in the Upper Valley. I don't know how many towns could say that we all work so well together to bring good to those that have a bump in the road. It doesn't happen every day, but when we can make it happen, we do it. So that's great. Yeah.
We're going around in this direction, so Chief
So,
Butler, you're next
We've
on
had
that
10
note.
fire calls. That was
On
one
that
of our
note,
most
yeah.
recent ones. No fires really. We had a whole string of those, that it's when you don't need an ambulance or police officer, you call fire department. So we removed a tree out of River Road for Ritchie, let someone into their house. We, if you call propane repair person because you have a problem, they automatically call us. So we showed up at a house. The lady it was such a small problem that she'd actually called the repair company and gone and taken a shower. So she was in the shower. I had to wait for her to get out. Tell me what was going on. So that's a good way, actually, because
Yeah.
we haven't had anything serious, but yeah, we're up to 10 calls again this year. We took the engine 4 out for a spin again today. I found the air leak problem in the brakes. There's another line you can open to blow water out of the line, and that was open because when they parked it, they opened all the valves, so we actually have good air now in the air brake system.
Good.
We're still working on that. I'm waiting to get it into Dingy's. There really isn't much else in the last 2 weeks.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, rather they were the smaller things.
Well, it was great because our community luncheon was at the fire department and Bruce was there and they got to see the new truck when they walked in. It was right there on display.
right.
So it was really good. They liked it.
That's fantastic.
Like touch a fire truck. They got to see it. Doesn't matter how old you are.
Rich,
Thanks, Bruce.
thank you.
So for the most part, we've been plowing, salting, sanding, that's our most things we've been doing. We did haul some crushed gravel back to the shop, getting ready for mud season, which who knows what's gonna happen. So I did get the decals put on the side of the truck, I put them on, so the new truck has the decals for Plainville Highway on it. And the next thing is I found a grader at 95 Champion for a used one, it has 1,600 hours on it. Basically come from Alabama, from a sanctuary, bird sanctuary, they hardly ever used it, it's in pretty decent shape, got new tires on it. There it is.
Oh,
Oh, look
Show
at
and tell.
it. Visually, that's nice. Looks sharp.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I don't know what's under that, but it looks good.
1,600 hours, that's-
Low hours.
yeah,
Yeah.
really low.
It's got a Cummins motor in it, which I like that motor better than do the ones I've been messing with. The John Deere. So
Okay, well,
So the price on
What's the
that,
ticket price?
yeah.
So have you seen this?
I took the pictures of it.
Okay,
I went right up
I
to it,
thought that
started,
might be the case.
I went up and started it and moved it.
I'm like, I'm,
Right.
speak, talk about the grader, tell us.
I really, all I can tell you is it doesn't look like it's ever been used, the. You know, the bushings and stuff all for the moldboard don't even look like they've ever been, not even wore. The paint's not even wore off the teeth on the, where it's just
It's only
amazing.
45 minutes away.
And it's only 45 minutes away.
I mean, it sounds like a really good opportunity.
It is.
For us, for sure. So, and would you like to share the price? I mean, I know the price, but if.
31,500 is the price, 31,500.
But most of its life has been in Alabama, yeah.
Correct.
well, you may not like the cold.
We'll get it a jacket. It's a John Deere.
For those. who
No,
don't-
it's champion.
Oh, it's a champion,
It's a
okay.
champion, which,
Okay.
No, it's the Cummins motor that you wanna like.
right.
Yeah,
Everybody
that's the
gets
one.
excited about the Cummins motor. I did have an opportunity to talk to the owner today. Chair Lappin asked me to give him a call because Ron Eberhard is not here. And we can discuss whether that's, something we wanna do or not. The owner, basically said he's willing to give us contact information for folks in Alabama who owned it, it literally graded roads in a wildlife sanctuary in Alabama. Apparently, and I don't know if you saw this, he says the Steeler sticker is still in the window.
Yes, it is.
And
Straight on
so
the side.
I looked online today and understanding this group is not, other than Richard, this group doesn't know a lot about graders and heavy equipment. That's not what we do. You can certainly buy. This is a 710A, is that right, Rich?
Correct.
It's a 710A and they are available online for similar amounts of money, but with tremendously more hours and wear. I mean, you can just, if this one is as good as the owner says it is, then at that price, it's a good deal compared to what other ones are being sold for on the internet. Champion is now owned by Volvo. The Volvo graders Champion was one of the early grader manufacturers, very well respected. This one apparently is of a vintage where it has no electronics at all.
I don't have, that I can see is any electronics at
And
all.
so it's,
That's another thing.
I don't know
Have you
how
heard
the.
this thing run?
Oh, yeah, I started it, moved it.
Okay,
I mean, I think the choices that the board is faced with at some point here is fix the old one, in which case we gotta get on it. Buy a used one to see if, a new grader's 300 grand. And so it's $11,000 a year in capital cost to own that grader. A $31,000 grader's gotta last you 3 years to be in the same place. There is some advantages to new, there's no question. Taxpayers of Plainfield have to foot $600 or $300,000 worth of bill to make, to pay for a new grader. Rich, at least in the early going, you've been impressed with this machine.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's
So,
really, it's awesome shape. You ain't gonna get nothing any better than that.
I mean, the owner wants us to do what we have to do to make a decision.
Yeah.
If we wanna talk to the people in Alabama, the guy certainly on the phone has the right approach. He's willing to let the town take the time it needs.
Okay.
And whatever that means to the select board tonight. If you guys know where you wanna go, if you're just not into used, then we pursue new. What we do know from our RFP is that, and I spoke to 2 local vendors, local contractors right here in town, who are both considering In the end, neither made a grader proposal, so we do
So
not.
that is not,
Right, Alan
an
Rowell's
option at
not
this time.
coming to grade
Right.
for us next year,
Right.
Kevin McNamara's not grading, Travis Marsh isn't grading. And so we are going to either rent a grader for the summer, buy a grader. Or buy a used grader, you know, we're gonna do something or fix our old one, cause no town can get away without a grader, and we have to have a grader. Or a service to do the work, and so.
so
And
assuming this gets us at least 3 years, which we actually hope, I mean, what
That
would
would be
you,
more,
what would you anticipate though? I mean, we're saying 3 years.
I would say at least 9 or 10,
Yeah.
easy.
So I'm gonna put you on the spot now.
Okay.
If you had, if this, you were buying it for your own purposes, would you hesitate to purchase this?
No, I wish I had the money for it.
Cause
really serious.
living on Ware Street in Claremont, you need a grader?
I just, that's a nice, that's nice.
You've seen it, you've heard it run,
I've been in, I moved
and
it,
you've moved it around.
took all the pictures and,
I have more pictures, but.
I actually
That's
like the
better.
idea that it's an older piece, that I'm electronic phobic. So
that's
don't
one thing I
like
liked about it too.
equipment that is primarily computer, you know, and if the computer goes, you're done.
Right,
I like the idea that it's a motor that you're gonna be comfortable working on, and hopefully you
it's a
won't
lot,
have to
you
be
get a lot, you
working
can get a
on
lot of
this.
parts for those too, those coming to, so if something ever happens,
And I'm a secondhand girl. I mean, if I can find something secondhand, that's a good price.
Well, it may get us to a different place in a different,
right.
you know,
I mean, I think.
budget year.
I think
where
if
we
Ron
may-
were here, he would like everything we're talking about. He would also, and I think you guys have had the same thoughts, point out that newer has emissions control information, which road agents don't like, but the planet does like, right? I mean, and so it is, you know, a lot of towns, and Plainfield isn't one of them, have retained older trucks and pieces of equipment because they are easier to work on locally.
Mhm.
They're not as easy on the planet.
Right.
Right, that's just the reality of it, but, and the guy just put those tires, right,
Just
you had a
brand new.
picture
I
of
was gonna say
them.
this,
They're
I
brand
don't
new.
know a lot, but those tires look
Right,
right.
good tires, good rubber. The tires, I checked online today, the tires are $4,000. If you bought it, 6 of them.
But he hadn't put on, so it cost him $5,400 is what it cost him.
Wow. So, I mean, we have two options. If you wanna make a motion, we can do that.
I think he must have had it shipped
To a
out.
certain agreement, it doesn't matter, or do we wanna? wait?
Yeah, if you wanna drive that up here, that'd be a long drive.
$200 on it.
I think Ron would be in favor.
I'm confident that Ron will be in favor of
And if
this.
he is,
I
then,
had a kind of-
I mean, I feel
I'd
good
see
about
something
it,
more
so if you would
hours on
like to make that
The
motion.
right size.
I
We can do
move
that
that we authorize
Can't get no
the,
better than that.
We're making a motion, Rich, sorry, we're making a motion here.
Oh, sorry.
I wanna make sure that I'm phrasing this properly. I move that we approve the withdrawal of, what's the name of the, what's the
I
name
think
of the
you could use
fund?
it.
Of the Highway Capital Reserve Fund
Of the, yeah, that,
for $31,500.
in order to purchase the used grader for the town. Does that work?
And can I just offer
Please.
one caveat? Subject to the town, the road agent and the town administrator finishing their research on the machine.
Even better,
Subject to that.
Subject,
yeah, that's even better.
Thank you.
I will second that.
So long as I don't have to repeat everything that you just said.
No, I mean, that gives you a little wiggle.
I mean,
room,
we
you know,
have,
not saying you
in
have
the
to,
minutes,
yeah.
we have a motion to remove $31,500 from the highway equipment fund to purchase a grader located by the road agent. With the subject to the town administrator and road agent completing their research on the purchase.
That works for me. That's the motion I make.
I will second that. Any other discussion you wanna have on that?
I would just like as much of the details, that's why I was pressuring you to talk about the machine. So that as much information as possible is actually in the recording of this meeting, rather than just like what you found out and you know, but it's not out here in the public.
Yeah, I told you what I, so.
Okay,
And you're able to follow up with him. I mean, one, he's gonna need to invoice us, and two, he's got some documentation. I'd like to talk to the people in Alabama.
Sure.
Just to confirm what he did for, once,
In fact, I won't too.
once you don't, once you don't own it, you have no reason not to tell us the way it was.
Right.
And I'd be interested in just why they got rid of it. They still have gravel roads and it's still brand new.
The other thing is just, it's not like 31.5 that we're just saying, okay, take this and go buy a grader.
Yeah.
We're saying 31.5 for that one.
Right, oh, yes, no, it's
No,
only,
that's,
it's
no,
only
that
for the
is the one.
champion
Okay,
seven ten
I
A.
agree
I'm
with
just
you.
saying,
No, I agree.
call me
Okay.
paranoid. I'm
No,
just-
I agree with
And
you.
it would be the next meeting before there would be a check in the manifest and we would have.
Yeah.
You know, we would have a full report for the select board. It does get us a machine back here, for spring work and.
Which is important.
And I think we would immediately, if this goes as it might, and it hasn't gone that way yet, but if it does. Then we would also immediately move to get rid of the other one. We do not need old iron.
No,
ore,
No,
right?
we do not.
Right.
So-
No, we do
whatever-
not.
We're just gonna put that.
So we
on
have-
Melissa bid.
He has some interest.
Well,
as it turns
Let's
out.
get, I wanna
Yeah.
complete the vote on this, so all in favor of your motion, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that passes. Now,
Okay,
I think we'll get to what happens to the older grader.
Right, I had a conversation with him about the grader, because he said that he bought this one because he likes a project, and it turns out it wasn't a project, it didn't need
Oh, well,
anything.
we've got one for him.
That's what I told him, and he's interested in hearing more about that, so I think,
There.
so maybe he'll take $5,000 off of the price of this thing.
I think we can talk about, and we can deliver it to him on the same trip that we picked this one up, right? Because the truck will be.
He could deliver this one and pick that one up when he delivers
Yeah,
it.
that
There you
may, that
go.
may be a stretch, but it's a good,
Yeah.
the thinking is the same.
I like to try. I like to
had a
try.
hard time getting that, keeping that. I wanted to get a little lower, but he would not budge.
Yeah, well, okay.
It's a good deal. It really is.
Well, we look forward to hearing how this
Yes.
Right,
progresses.
we will keep
and-
you, we'll keep
finishes
you,
up.
but it
But
gives
this
us
way
the
you can
authority, right, it gives
go
us
ahead
the authority to
get
go
it
ahead and
going.
make the deal
If-
if Rich thinks it's the way to go for sure.
Yeah.
We'll talk to the folks in Alabama, we'll finish our due diligence, which literally we just started in the last couple days, I mean.
And thank you, Rich, for your work on this, because I know
Yes.
you really had to do some research and
Oh,
get this moving.
we're gonna have to a couple times to make sure
Excellent.
we had all
Thank you, and I appreciate the pictures. Anything else in your
That's it.
report? All right,
the.
great, fantastic.
Which is right there.
It's been, yeah, look at
Thank you,
that.
Rich.
You're
Cover
welcome.
of next year's annual report.
Yeah.
That's the best.
Rock and grader.
Yeah. Chief,
So my annual report for 2025 is almost complete and will be submitted to Steve probably before the end of the day tomorrow. We just received an update that the body cams that we have been expecting will be arriving Friday. We'll be reaching out to the vendor to be given proper training on how to use them effectively in the upcoming weeks. It is our hope that these cameras will be an upgrade from the ones we currently use with a focus on officer safety in their use. That was my big concern.
And what are they thinking? Are they thinking that we finish out the contract and we have these at the end?
Yeah.
I mean, so basically pay them one more year, but you get the better version going forward.
Right.
That'll be a nice.
Well done.
We're gonna be considered a trial site.
I mean, you've not been impressed with the ones that were
No.
purchased under the other administration, so.
Nope, too many moving parts and it's an officer safety issue
So
there.
really, that'll be a nice,
That's
nice,
great.
a nice accomplishment for Eric if he gets us new body. We have 1 year left on the program. And
Yeah.
we'll have body cameras that are 3 years newer and won't need new ones as quickly. So that's great.
We continue to use our Facebook page to update and keep citizens informed of public safety topics. We currently have 780 followers on our page. I posted a public service announcement post in regards to coyote mating season, which is kind of ironic.
I missed
It's
that.
for the next 4 to 6 weeks.
I love
to beware of your pets.
Yeah.
So I have
Yeah.
to say that this post was shared 1,600 times from our Facebook. So we're not just being by our followers, we have people that are just on there, so
Yeah.
we're reaching
Interesting.
people.
Yeah.
We're still working on our CSI, our modem issue. Rob has been in contact with the vendor for our body cam company as well, because they have modems in the car and see if we can work something out. We're still working on that. And my hope is to have another Coffee with a Cop event, maybe in February, March, but I'd like to see if I can do it at the PD on a Saturday, so this way people who weren't able to come out because it was during the week last time can come out and see
Yeah.
us.
Excellent,
That's my report.
fantastic, thank you.
So, as part of that, if you're gonna do like at the PD, if you need, bakers.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we
To
could,
make some goodies, yeah,
Okay.
just let us know which day. I'd certainly be willing to bake something.
Thank you.
absolutely. Yeah,
So I know you're pushed on time, so I'll just run right through the list. So on the
Right.
facilities, shoveling and plowing, keeping parking lots and walkways set.
The full-time
Doing the
gig.
roof that Richie's got me on. Tomorrow I've got an electrician putting the electrical for the heat pump, finally moving forward on the
Very
heat
good.
pump we install at Highway. We had a furnace that was giving some trouble at the pump house, went out a couple of times, replaced the thermostat, that seems to have fixed it. At first, we weren't sure, but I'm checking it, and everything seems to be running right now. The highway roof RFP, we've had 3 contractors that have expressed interest. One has given me a roof and a sheathing number only, that's 78,000. And then there's, so the other piece of that is the rest of the work, which is a lot of sistering up boards and bolts and things, but I'm on it. I also, since I'm getting some piecemeal interest, not full turnkey, I've got LaValley's working on a material takeoff of the drawing so that we have some sense of what the material cost is. So that if somebody, well, there's a couple of ways it may go. Marshall Beard, who has done a lot of work for the town over the years, just before he left town, I was chatting with him about that project because it's something that's undercover. He could pick it up and take it, set it aside all summer long, as long as it was done by summer. And that might fit for him. So anyway, there's a couple of ways this may come together,
Yeah.
but right now the market has not responded with turnkey proposals.
But
That's my interest.
but based on what we know, we would keep the article on the warrant.
Yes, I'm hoping to
I
have
mean, at
at
70,
least some version that
at
I've
70,
priced all the
we
way
can still
through,
do it.
that I know we could say, this is what we are likely to be able to do it. We may get a better offer. But if we end up having to put the pieces together ourselves, here's what I think it would cost. That way you keep the warrant article, you raise the right.
I mean, we really want to do that project, get a new.
Yeah,
roof on that
absolutely.
building.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but we only had like, what was it, 96,000 set aside of the,
Right, what the article that we
Yeah,
have in the
yeah.
warrant is for $100,000, and you're essentially using straight unassigned fund balance at this
right,
point.
but it's
The,
money that we.
right,
got
the
from
old
somewhere.
ARPA money was 96.
But my concern is that if we're only getting part of this done for 78,000, are we going to be able to
There
get the other part of it
Well,
done?
that is the
That
open
is-
question.
I mean, I think what might happen is if it's, he's got more interest than I thought he might have. Between Brad and Marshall, Brad's a carpenter and he's very familiar with that building. Marshall's a carpenter and less familiar, but Brad will get him familiar. I think materials and time, we could get a lot of that work done and still be under the 100 for the project.
Okay.
I'm hoping that we'll get sweeter deals, better numbers. There has been more interest in the last few days in it, but really coming out of unassigned fund balance, which is really the ARPA money, the vast majority of it will be the ARPA money. It's a project that we need to get done. The highway garage needs a new roof. The board is committed to that building now, and if we want to do things like solar and make the building closer to code compliant structurally, now's the time. Let's get it on the warrant and do it and
I
be
think
done.
by the next meeting, I could have a path with contract number from an outside person for doing the sheathing and the metal, and then Marshall and I doing the rest,
That would be
materials and
helpful.
label.
Oh, yeah,
That gives us a path priced soup to nuts. So if nothing else, we know we can do the work and have a sense of what it would take.
That would be great.
And then you
Yep.
can decide whether that's something we want to pursue.
Great.
And in the meantime, I'll stay on top of the 2 other vendors that have said they'd like to put a number on. Let's see, the Hub 66 IT Services RFP is ongoing. So we've reached out to 3 vendors, had conversations with Steve with 2 of them. One has already put together a proposal. They're the folks that are most impressive. They have their act together and they know it, and the price reflects it. And then we have another outfit that is connected with the school. That's how I got their
Okay,
name.
yeah.
And I just chatted with him again today. They're more a la carte kind of thing. They sort of feel like a good fit for Plainfield in terms of the kinds of numbers on an hourly basis that he thought they would charge to serve us and handle our IT needs. And then the one Lakes Region Computing, they just received my packet and are chewing on that and gonna call back and we'll have the same conversation that Steve and I did with. We talk about how we've used it in the past and what we like and and what we'd like to see.
Just to
going
give
forward.
you a sense of, and I think this is a conversation we've had with the finance committee, I've certainly had it with Chairman Sutherland. You know, for something like 30 years, Mark Cohen from Cornish, North Country Computer, has maintained our computer systems, no data breaches, no significant viruses, no loss of things, all those good things. Last year, we paid Mark $2,500. Brad and I looked at the
Yeah, we're not
proposal
gonna get-
today,
Mhm.
and I said, look, Brad, that proposal's not bad, it's $1,800. It's $1,800 per month.
Per
Yeah,
month.
I was gonna say,
$21,000
yeah.
to do what we've been doing for 5, on most years.
Mhm.
And so that
So
is,
we say thank you to them.
yeah, well, it's just, but as we are
Who's
seeing a
basically
change
volunteer.
in the guard,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, these folks, if they were to come to Plainfield, I was chuckling today with, I think it was Mike, the first thing they would do is take a pair of pruners and cut the wire to town hall and not let anything leave, because they wanna change everything, right? They don't like anything we're doing here.
Right.
And so, in terms of IT
That
stuff,
may be a bit drastic.
and so it
Maybe
is.
not far.
Yeah.
But the reality is even the intermediate people are gonna be 10, 15.
Yeah.
You know, I mean.
We'll see.
well,
Yeah.
We just
they-
don't
they
know,
just-
and-
Yeah.
but that's not a bad guess, given what we've just seen.
What else we get?
And then, last Friday, I had a meeting with the Upper Valley Lake Sunapee and Mark Goodwin, who's our granted, GIS guy. Working on trying to bring some data to the PD proposal for speed time changes. Basically, there is a possibility that Upper Valley Lake Sunapee may be able to do a sign inventory and bolster that with some speed data. Where they've been collecting data already, and the Upper Valley can do some more. They get some granting from DOT, and so they've said possibly we could get them to do this whole sign inventory with the speed data at no cost. We'll see. We're gonna get a proposal from them the next day or two. Whole idea is coming up behind the chief's proposal and being able to set the stage for what do we know now about our roadways and accident locations and speed and signage, and what would it take to make changes to test the waters or to do the whole proposal. So that's just running its course. It'll gel in the next 30 days, I would guess. And then also put so we're in the process, the Conservation Commission has got the NRI, Natural Resources Inventories, being updated.
Mhm.
Their guy, Jeff Littleton from Moosewood, who's done the update, happened to be looking for, okay, we're gonna have this great data, where do you want us to put it? How do you want to help us make it available to people who are interested? That dovetails really
Yeah.
nicely with the work that Mark Goodwin's doing about gathering together all our GIS assets and starting to figure out who wants access to what kind of access do we want to give them, and what kind of tools do we want to put at their disposal. So a bunch of little things are sort of coming together that will, so sometime in the near future, the files that are the NRI will be put in a place where, and there's some decisions about whether it becomes part of our Access GIS Cartographics hosted GIS app online, or whether it's a separate tool that we link to. But there will be ways for various stakeholders to get access to that information.
Yeah, it's gonna be in the master plan. There's gonna be a link to it in the master plan.
Great. And
That's the intention as soon as it's completed.
yeah, so super. I didn't know about that, but super. So that's kind of it for facilities. Under the water department, Q4 billing went out on schedule. Meters swaps were paused. Frank went to Florida for a week. He'll be back. And then we'll resume the meter swaps. We've got about 60 of the total of 120 customers. 60 meters have been swapped. And we've got 21 waiting for him to install. I'm gonna order the last half dozen, which are odds and ends, different size things. And at that point, we will have everything swapped except for Spruce Park. Spruce Park, I'll come back to in a second, but so meter swaps are happening. We started inventorying all the water system as part of the asset management plan, capital improvement planning process. I started geotagging and inventorying water department assets, valves, hydrants we already had, but valves, curb stops, other things. at some point before too long, we'll start adding cost and replacement cost data to that. This is just sort of our asset management process, crunching through that process, but that in the end, by the end of this year, we will have an asset management plan and a capital improvement plan in place based in spatial data, GIS based. Let's see. Yeah, we're waiting to hear on a sustainability grant for the water department's engineering. We're expected to hear on 211 for that. That's a design bid build process where the first study pays for engineering, then assuming they tell you you want to do something, or tell you you should do some things, you then can get an implementation grant. And because you've done the first piece the way they like it, you're in a good position to qualify for the funding. But one step at a time, we'll figure out that as it goes. The other piece, the Spruce Park co-op, we had a meeting with Shelley Hadfield, who used to run CDFA, Community Development Fund, which is a source of funding for various community development projects. Spruce Park would like to do something, is already doing some septic rework, but what we're interested in is they would like to do some water main work. They have currently 2 spurs that dead end, and everybody says that's not great. It'd be better if they loop back. The water department would like them looped back and would prefer not to pay for that work. And the park would like it to loop back, and one of the mains is undersized and they like to upgrade that. The meeting was to see, Shelley has offered to donate some of her time to run this project, to help us guide us through this process. And part of the process was to figure out if the Spruce Park Co-op had their act together enough to really pursue something like this. And the takeaway from that meeting was they do, and they're having a meeting of their board this Saturday, and will respond to Shelley and myself and tell us whether they're ready to go forward.
So I know that's been ongoing.
Yeah, so all of that is just moving along. In a perfect world, they would get a planning grant this spring. They would have some engineering done, and then they would do an implementation grant a year from now. So the water mains might get looped back to 12A, and the town role, my role in that would be to basically observe that process, make sure it was done according to American Water Works standards, which it would be because it would be designed by the proper engineering group. And so, but it could fix a problem that's a bit of a headache for the town, for the water department. And that's about it.
Terrific. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for that?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Surprise.
Yeah.
Steve, before we get to the budget hearing, was there anything
I have
unrelated
I
to
have
the
a couple
budget
of
that you
things, but I
wanted to?
think I think we can fold them right into the budget.
That's what I wondered.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
they were. Okay,
So are we good?
I think.
I think where we are in our process tonight. We've been working on the budget. We've had a couple of meetings with the finance committee. We've sent them some information. Obviously, we had a change just in the last few minutes. If the grader thing actually works out, that will make a change in our budget, in our town meeting approach. To the positive in terms of reducing the request from dollars from taxation. But we are in our first budget hearing tonight, which typically is the main budget hearing, to get feedback and information. And then we have a second budget hearing on February 4th over at the Plainfield Library, which is something the board has done now for 10 years or more. That becomes an opportunity to discuss any new information that comes in. We're mostly done with our budgeting process at this point, still making a few fine tunes, but we would finish that up on February 4th. We have noticed tonight as well we have a petitioned article asking the town to consider going to Senate Bill 2 ballot voting, and also one on the Municipal Budget Act provisions. There is not a statutory requirement to have a public hearing on the Budget Act provision, but since we're having one on the first petitioned article. So before we finish our night tonight, we will have taken comments and heard from the public on the budget. and on the two petitioned articles that we have. And so I'll just go through, what I'm gonna try to do, Amy, is I'm gonna go through the 30,000 foot level sheets. And then everybody who has looked on the web or has picked one of these up has access to all the object codes.
Yeah.
That make up the budget. It is not just the 12 lines or 24 lines you see of the budget. That we use is just a very easy way to see where town spending is. But there are many, many detailed accounts that are in there. And anybody that has a question, we can talk about those. We did finish, and this is one of the things I would have mentioned in the department report. We did finish remarkably quickly in terms of where we are their first customer each year. Plodzik and Sanderson has been in, they've done their field work, which meant they sat at this table for 2 or 3 days last week. And they have essentially pulled together all of the sheets for the 2025 audit. Last year, before Halloran mucked around with reservations to keep in the town report, you can see it on the balance sheet. To keep our mind straight as to how we plan to utilize fund balance. We ended last year with an audited unassigned fund balance of $1,298,978. The selectmen used 80,000 of fund balance at tax rate setting to reduce the to even the tax rate to 1650 or 1750 essentially. At the end of 2025, the unassigned fund balance is 1,347,873. The gain mostly comes from being 60,000 under, 50,000 under in expenditures and being 60,000 to the strong on the revenue side. Our revenues, we always try to be conservative in the estimation of revenues. And so what that means is we think at town meeting, we would spend $100,000 at unassigned fund balance to go to the highway garage, which is really the ARPA money. But the ARPA money got used for paving on the advice of auditors because they didn't want there to be any chance of the federal government taking the money back. And so essentially it's the same money, it's just a different label now. And it's part of our unassigned fund balance. So that would leave us 1,247,000 in fund balance, or 247,000 available for the select board to try to soften the any tax rate increase. In our policy is to generally not let to return everything over $1 million in unassigned fund balance. And so that's the very big picture. I think the financial health of the town is strong. We have a positive fund balance, a significantly positive fund balance in keeping with the select board's policy. And so we should have some monies available. I think we'll have to use our crystal ball a little bit in thinking about what 27 might be like, but that comes in October. And so if you look now at I'm just gonna slide down the sheets here for those who are on Zoom or may not have it on their computer. We'll take a quick run through the warrant, but it's really mostly the budget, and we'll be back to the petitioned articles. You know, we have our voting of town officers, which Paul Mars helps us set up in terms of the positions that we'll be filling. We do have an open selectman seat and I think an open library trustee seat. Some people have started to come in and sign up, which is great. There are no budget numbers in the draft warrant yet because it's the draft warrant and we haven't had the budget hearing yet.
Back to that though, when is the last day somebody can?
Next Friday. Next Friday at 5 o'clock. So from right now, from right now till next
person.
And we will be, and there are slots, to your point, Amy, let me go up. There are slots, if you want to be a select board member, a trustee of the trust funds, a library trustee, a cemetery trustee, and supervise the checklist, and a town clerk. We've appointed, the select board appointed Sarah to be the town clerk, but she has to run at the next election, which is in March. We also have a moderator, which we elect every 2 years. So all those officers are open and anyone's willing to put their hat in the ring. There's a form you fill out in the town office. There's also a similar process for the school, for their positions. And I think Michelle accepts both town and school, signings. And so this will get filled out. This Article 2 is just becomes the operating budget, which is the same as the sheets. We just have to put it in yet because everything changes every day. Right now, we are at 405,000 to be placed in the capital reserve funds. And again, we'll get into all of this more in the budget. I would suggest to you that this highway equipment fund article can drop back to 100,000 if the greater purchase happens, if we don't find a fatal flaw in that. So that would immediately reduce the numbers we're gonna talk about by $50,000. On the select board's direction at the last meeting, we added $30,000 to the town hall repair fund, which is a request from the Plainfield Town Hall committee who's doing the work and has gotten a matching grant for the Plainfield Town Hall. And again, I think we'll talk more about those, but those are your money articles. The one, besides the one for the highway garage, which is the roof replacement, I've got this highlighted just because we're still fine tuning that number. And Brad and I'll continue to work on that. It will have zero impact on taxes because it's paid for out of unassigned fund balance. Then we have the petitioned articles, of which we'll have a hearing on shortly, which is the Senate Bill 2. And then we have a second petitioned article to go to a formal budget committee, which essentially is removing the budgeting function from the selectmen and moving it to this committee. And that would also be voted on at town meeting and is an article we can talk about more in just a little bit. And then the rest of it is appointing our advisory finance committee, assuming we need to do that. And continuing with the KUA study, and then we finish up with town officers, or accepting the reports of town officers, and you know, typically the time when we give out awards or offer thanks during the accepting each other transactions. So then moving into the budget, which is this is the town's appropriation line. So net appropriation is dollars raised from taxes, and so this is sort of the way the town has been from 2009 to what's proposed for 2026. And so I just offer that as some dots that show you net appropriation over time. Now we're into the operating budget, which also I'm gonna try. I don't want to go any smaller. You guys are probably having trouble seeing as it is. I will be back and forth here a couple of times. But right now, the old request is the 25 budget was 3,130,136. We spent 3,070,000 and we're asking for 3,260,000. One of the things I would point out is that having something like $60,000 of your appropriation left at the end of the year is 2% on a guess, right? And which is incredibly tight. Had we hired one police officer or one guy in highway, we'd have probably been over the budget, right? And so we did not hire those. So you can say, well, you were underspent and look at all that other money you want. Well, that other money has the assumption in it that we would be able to hire those people and pay for the increases that we're all seeing in other places in the budget, just driven by inflation. And so all other things being equal, with this budget requires 130,000 extra dollars, and we'll get into the meat of that, or an increase of 4.2%. Now we'll go back up and kind of work our way down a little bit. And I'll just touch on some of these, but essentially, and I think every organization is very similar, particularly municipal organizations. The town right now has 12 full-time positions. We have about 25 part-time and elected people who take pay. Last year, salaries for the town were $1,076,000. That'll be in the town report. So our budget is 33% wages, and it's 45% wages and benefits.
Yeah.
I mean, it's people. I mean, and I think you see that wherever you go. If we go down through the budget, a little item that's up a big percentage is elections. Well, last year was the easiest year
Yeah.
for elections. This year we have 3.
Yeah.
So you have to pull everybody together in the gym, you have to pay them, you have to feed them. The financial administration line, the biggest increase there is being driven by a $10,000 select board directed addition to the budget to hire a study of the town office to deal with the town administrator retiring and a new town clerk.
I wanted to, I wanted to speak to that because, one of the reasons why we had talked about putting that in this year's budget is because we were anticipating that Steve was going to be leaving us this year.
I think we were actually hoping that that study could be done before we get to the point where we want to look for a new, like before he leaves.
Okay.
So that we know, so we know what
That
we're
study
looking
in
for.
March, if you can.
Yeah.
You get out of town meeting, if you wanna do the study,
If we
you
wanna
do it
do
as
the study,
quickly as you
yeah.
can. So that you can then react to it because
Because otherwise
we don't know what you're posting
otherwise we're
for.
posting for the exact same position, which may not fit our needs. So,
Okay,
yeah,
So that,
I just wanted to rehash it.
yeah.
so of the $19,000 increase, $10,000 is the estimate from MRI to do the study. If you wanna see one, go to the Grantham
Grantham.
website,
I looked
Grantham.
at that again, that was why I was questioning.
And you know,
whether-
Grantham,
Maybe.
like every small town, everybody divides the jobs differently. In Grantham, the town administrator is the human service officer. Or was, they may have changed that now, but every town sort of divides up its jobs differently. I think what we know, current staff is feeling it now. It is more likely than not that you will have, even if they're part-time people, you will have a bigger mix of people working in the town office than you do now. But that'll be for MRI to help us with if we keep that in there.
Mhm.
And so then. Town office study. Wanted to drop down to. I'll come back to that one. Contracted service in cemeteries, the cemetery trustees extended the work that Gage does for us for another, is it 2 years? I think it was a 2-year, and so it basically, the contract for the cemetery, the care of cemeteries, and there are 17 sites around town, is 35,000, and the difference is special projects. And so that's a position that we used to do with, we used to do that with town employees many years ago. Now we do it with contracted services and Gage in particular for many years. Insurances, what you're seeing here, our rates and things actually dropped on the property liability side. Workman's comp is about 35,000. And property liability is about 55. The checks are in this week's batch. And then there's 1 or 2 miscellaneous smaller policies that augment this coverage. But the big one was that the school care special assessment, and so we don't anticipate that again. We didn't anticipate it this year. We had to absorb it. The police, as we talked at one of our earlier budgets sessions, we are budgeting for 3 full-time officers, but with discussions with Chief Gutzfeld, we are assuming that we wouldn't get the person in here before the end of first quarter. And the reality is it's a very slow process to hire police officers. Even if you had viable candidates, by the time you vet them and things, weeks and months have gone by. And so right now, in the police budget, there are 3 officers, and we assume we don't hire for the 3rd until March, or April. And, and all of the vacant positions, or the 2 vacant positions, all create stresses in the budget because you have to make assumptions. You don't know what their healthcare needs are. You don't know what levels of expertise you're gonna be hiring. But beyond that, the police budget, working with the chief, is exactly like the budget that we had the previous year. You're just seeing, we've got, we understand that our one officer made more money than he would normally make in a typical year if you had another officer to take some of the call, to take some of the hours. And so some of that sugars off here, and you do have to maintain the cruisers and keep the lights on and all the normal things. But the majority of this change has to do with budgeting for a police officer. Continuing to budget for police officers,
Maybe if we don't budget for one, we'll find one.
right, well, that's usually the way it works, I mean, it's. We
I
had
mean,
a,
in a pinch, we could, okay, so let's go down that road a little bit, though.
Right.
If we did not budget for that,
Mhm,
if we just budgeted for what we've got,
just the two,
we have that, extra, what was it, $250,000?
an unassigned fund balance,
Unassigned fund balance, I
But-
can never remember.
but
those
not
things.
an appropriation to spend from it. And so, you know, if the town, unassigned fund balance, if the town had a bridge failure and you had to go buy a bridge, you write a letter to the director of municipal services at DRA and they give you special permission to spend that money without voter approval. Essentially, if we hire in highway and we hire in PD and we don't have those positions budgeted, it means we don't do something else in the budget, right? We would stop some other project. We wouldn't do a road project, or we wouldn't do something because you are bound, the voters can't change the voters can change the bottom amount. They don't control the lines.
All right.
And that works the same way for you. So you are bound by $3,260,000. How you spend that is up to you and only you. But you would, in order to hire two positions that weren't budgeted for, you would have to, in a sense, you would have to, cut something else out. The other thing that happens, and this is a conversation that we had a week ago, 2 weeks ago. The minute you don't budget for that position, it means you really are committing to not having those positions. And it makes, if you decide to have them, it makes for significant sticker shock on the tax rate the next year, right? Because
The
you
next
went,
year or the second half of the year?
well, no, the next year, because the
Okay.
first
You go
half,
back to-
the first half, we just have to take it
Okay.
out of our
Yeah.
line.
All right,
The next year, we're gonna say, all right, we're gonna budget for the 100,000 for the police officer and the 70 or 80,000 that a highway guy costs us. And it shows right up on the bottom of the net appropriation. And so
Okay.
this budget is responsible if we believe that the desired level of employees is 6 in highway. Rich would say 7, but 6, he's got 5 right now, 6 in highway and 3 in PD. That's what this budget supports. So always a problem. I mean, when you set your tax rate in the fall and we use $200,000 in fund balance to reduce the rate by a quarter or 50 cents. That money's not available next year, you're already 25 cents in the hole, right? You have to put it, so it's really far better if you want to be a level tax rate over time or a slowly growing tax rate over time to fully fund the budget out of current taxes. It just keeps it, fund balance is only intended for emergencies and unintended things. Now, returning it at tax rate setting is just a policy that we have, and it's a good policy. It gives the voters a sense as to what's gonna happen. But in the event that we were wrong one year and our revenues weren't underestimated, they were overestimated, fund balance could drop below $1 million very quickly. You have no money to offset taxes, so you see the increase. And so that's the danger of the drug of fund balance, is that it may not be there next time.
okay. I just wanted
Yeah,
all
no,
of that in
I-
this recording, so thank you.
I think we are trying to do everything we can to limit the net appropriation and still fund the town at a level. If we weren't, we would be spending $325,000 on a new grader. And we're
That's right.
spending 31, right? If we think, we don't know yet. The guy from, and so. We got a little bit of a sticker shock from Windsor in the ambulance world. Lebanon, for years, we have paid them 28,000. We really complained about 28, and so they just decided 20 was the right number. It's not gone up in years, but it is 28 every year. Windsor has been happy to take 9 and said that, thank you very much, but 12 will be better. this year. And so there's extra money in the ambulance line for the Windsor ambulance. Fire, I think Chief Elder has done, he's here, he can address his own budget, but I think those guys have done a great job of cost containment. He has made an adjustment in mileage reimbursements or stipends for guys that put up time, and so that really is the only change in the fire budget that we've seen.
Worth every penny.
And this is another one that I think typically, when we talk about the town budget, we love Hanover Dispatch. We think they do a good job. I think not every call is perfect. We've been with them for a number of years. It's very pricey, $73,000 for our police dispatching and our fire dispatching. I do remember the days when the dispatching was split and it wasn't as good as what we have now, you know, a single dispatch. Everybody has talked about a Sullivan County dispatch service. It has never happened. On this number, the 73, where do I get that? I got that number directly from Doug Hackett, who's in charge of Hanover dispatch. I said, Doug, what's the right number for Plainfield in the budget this year? We gotta be sure we have it covered. You can see we were a little short last year, 66.5, we spent 68.2. So 73 was what his budget projections are for our share would be this year. Highway, very, very similar. You know, when it's the biggest budget in your or the biggest department in your budget, you know, the main budget's up less than 1%. The smaller part, which is the heating and cooling and maintenance electricity on the highway garage, you know, but generally speaking, for the entire highway department, that increase is very modest. And, you know, Rich does a good job of cost containment within the department. Salt has gotten very expensive. We've had to make some assumptions. We thought we were gonna have a winter where we didn't use a lot of salt. I don't know if you saw the news thing on Channel 9, Manchester, New Hampshire used 90% of their salt
Yeah.
budget as of yesterday. We're not quite that deep, but we would sure like some drier, nicer weather, for a little while, because I think, Rich, you can speak to it, but the small storms are as bad as the big storms from a cost perspective.
Exactly the same.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
by the time we salt the roads and run the sand around, and it happens every night, we get 2 and 2.5 inches of snow. So we around we go again. Road project, that's the TRA money, the state money. Call it a TRA. I don't think there's anyone alive who can remember it being called TRA, but the highway. Franklin,
I'm barely alive.
but you remember the TRA. And I got that term from Judy Bellier many, many years ago. That's our TRA state money. That money comes from the state of New Hampshire. You'll see it on the revenue sheet. And the selectmen have essentially used it for paving. In working with Rich. And if you remember Jeff Albright's, who we loved, retired New Hampshire DOT engineer who sat on many boards here in town before they moved away. Jeff was very fond of showing us a graph of pavement maintenance, where if you catch it early, you save tens of thousands of dollars over if you let the pavement deteriorate to a certain level and then pave it. So right now, Baines Road, which is a road that was built by, you know, that, you say, well, geez, how can Baines Road be ready for paving? Well, it's 25 years old now. Been a long time since Baines Road.
Oh, that doesn't seem
Like the new
possible.
one.
So
No.
Baines Road, I think you had a couple other spots you'd also hit, not just Baines, but
Yeah, and Whitney Road and this one down here, the small one.
you know, we've got a few little, what we typically do in a year like that, like we did with Bonner. You'll do Bonner and then you'll pick up a couple of the spur roads that could use an overlay while they're here. I think we would, last year when we bid the paving, we ended up splitting the bid between 2 paving companies. Springfield Paving did about half the work and Pike did about half the work. And they were both, you know, Pike, I think, was surprised that we went with someone else, but I think you found their work to be fine.
Just fine.
And so that would be Baines Road would be the work. We might try to get some more shimming done on these longer roads as well. Because we would have, you know, this money, where is it? I've lost it here, here it is. We've got this money plus the reserve money that we'll see in just a second. Water operations, the only change I've got to make here, this number's about 83,000. The 71,858 is really 83. The auditors made an audit adjustment and in terms of, this is a separate fund.
Mhm.
And so if anybody wants to read our audit in a couple of months, they will see that if you are a customer of the water district, you get an accounting of how much the district paid in and how much we spent on their behalf. And if we owe them money, it's shown, or in the more likely scenario, and for the protection of, Plainfield taxpayers, if we had 80 in revenue and we spent 90, then the water fund would be owing us 10. And so the auditors take care of that. Our new fund accounting system handles it automatically, which is something I really like. I don't have to do inter-fund transactions. It's smart enough to know them for us, and so, or has been set up so it knows them. But this water department, we are having a budget hearing tonight for two funds. One is the water fund and one is the general fund, which is most of the budget, but we are allowed to budget it as all one budget, as Plainfield has been used to seeing for years. Solid waste, this is the biggie here in terms of the 350 to 370, that's the actual. I'm 374, so I'm betting on recycling prices getting a little bit better. That may be a poor bet. There is a automatic 4% increase cost of living in the contract each year. For the Casella contract. And as we all know, the Lebanon landfill went from $122 a ton to $155 a ton. And so there may need to be an audit adjustment here too. One of the things is some of this number is actually paying for a little bit of the waste that goes to the Lebanon landfill because they do a dumpster route and that's commingled. So it gets a little confluted here, but these numbers, the gross of these numbers is accurate and it is gross. But that is the amount of money that we spend. It's still, if you do the math and you go backwards, nobody could hire Casella. I mean, we can joke about the trucks and joke about the snow and what we've been learning this winter, but it's costing an average household $400 a year to have their garbage picked up at their doorstep. Casella's gonna charge you $800 or $900 to do that for a year if they do it on a subscription basis. So as the solid waste committee is pointing out, as a community, this is a good deal. It's not a good deal if you don't use it and you pay for it in your taxes. Health department, the only thing I wanted to say here, we got Stephanie reviewed and gave me a very detailed report of which agency, and it'll be in the town report. It's in the object codes of the budget, which are being funded. Again, this year, we had organizations that never requested their money. And we're not gonna chase you down to give you our money. And so if obviously they don't need it that badly, because they didn't ask for it. Here, when you see an overage like this on the revenue side, this is made up with donations that have come in. You have the shell fund, completely separate, has nothing to do with this. And then you have donations that go directly into the revenue stream for the town.
And grants.
And grants, thank you. And so it's on the revenue side. We prefer to keep this number. We don't think this number needs to be 53, but every year, we find maybe it does. And so we resisted the urge to bump this to 50, 55, but maybe that's better planning in the future. But the difference is made up in donations and more than enough to cover that. Dan Cantlin, been doing it for years. Well, the focus of our program is the young kids that haven't reached 7th and 8th grade, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, at PES for sports. So Dan is prepping them in the 2nd and 3rd, 4th graders, soccer, t-ball. He has a pretty extensive report, annual report each year. We get about $18,000 in revenue from user fees from the rec department. That's all in income from departments on the other side. And so again, a very similar number to what Dan has been doing in the past. Same with the libraries. I think the two libraries are being, 2.6% increase, a little under inflation. And I think the buildings are performing as they had hoped they would perform. I know we have at least 2 fewer staff at the libraries now than we've had in the past. And so Just means some of the workers put more hours in, because you still gotta cover the same number of hours. But I think the library has had good cost containment. Conservation Commission's asked for a modest $250, for some work that, you know, they wanna do on this NRI project that they're doing. We have no debt, so we have no debt payments. And then you go down just a little further. This is the money for all the reserve funds. It's one article in the warrant. And you'll see, you know, the exact amount of money. You'll see it in your town report. It got transferred into the funds. As directed, this is the one we think by the second budget hearing, we will be able to reduce the equipment reserve fund back down to the $100,000. This was where our grader, the lease for the new grader was sort of living, or the rental of the services. Since we got nobody to say they wanted to do road grading in Plainfield, that tells us that we need to own a grader. And so this number in all likelihood will be reduced. That's a discussion we can have, but in a tough year, that's a place where you can get 50. This is the highway department road roof project, the $100,000, but there's an offsetting revenue down here. From fund balance, it must be just a little further down yet. There it is, it's right at the bottom. Fund balance utilization, $100,000, so that just is the offsetting revenue. You never know what to do with auto registrations. I mean, I like to be conservative in our revenues. This is interesting. This is a sign of our economic health, in that we have fewer unpaid taxes probably than at any time in the history of the town, so we don't make as much interest on unpaid taxes. So we backed that number down a little bit this year. We're gonna have some current use land change taxes this year, because the Vendito property up on Camp Road is starting to sell some of the lots, and those are all current use lots. They'll sell at least one, I'm sure, this year, and maybe two. Two are listed. Motor vehicle registrations. That may be a stretch. I may be strong there, and I may regret that a year from now, but that's the, you know, Michelle. I mean, it's insane, the amount of cars we registered in town, but it's good, it's good. We'd estimated 150,000 on trash. We brought in 175. We have no plans to change the sticker price. I think everybody, whether it's water department or buying a sticker for your toter, people are a little bit, you know, inflationed out right now, if we can hold the line. So in theory, if, you know, we gotta build the dumpsters, and we gotta buy, and the same amount of people gotta buy stickers for their toters. So the numbers should look very similar. There's nothing extraordinary in here. That was just the purchase of those stickers for the tops of the toters. And we budget, or we bill just about 40,000. I'm trying not to screw it up too badly, but about $40,000 in dumpster charges. So that's part of that 175. This is state money. The only real state money we get, the highway block grant and the rooms and meals distribution, which is you know, and that comes at the very end of the year, like the last day. They hope this one comes quarterly. Income from departments, that's everything we were just talking about. That's building permits, that's donations to the human services department. It's grants, small grants that come in that need to be expended in the current year. It's all of that stuff. We typically estimate about 40,000. We hit that target this year. Water department, we thought we'd bill about 84,000, almost 85,000. We budgeted we billed 82. You could probably jump this to 82, and you know, and be fine again. We do have some new meters, and it'll be interesting, as Brad's talked, to see what the meters do to the water bills. We had at least one customer in today who was not impressed with their meter reading from the new reader. And so maybe I'm a little light here, and if I was light here, I would take whatever I put here, I would take away from here, because this does have me a little concerned that I might be strong there. In terms of estimating those revenues, you don't want to get irrational exuberance, or you will be in trouble come October. Sale of town property, we've got at least one old grader and 2 old trucks that don't run, that will be selling, and so we're estimating we might get $20,000 for those things.
With one fire truck.
and a fire truck, thank you, maybe. And so, you guys are sick of me talking, but I could probably bump this to 78 if anybody knows what interest rates are gonna do. But again, if I did that, I'd lower this one a little bit. And so this is what we earned on interest on deposits. That's done by the treasurer moving money from two secure accounts. One Mascoma will pay interest on, the other they will not. And so we have to do this. Ann does this on a weekly basis, but you can see the value of that. And then this is the trust fund money. You have the John D. Bryant Fund, which gives us money for guide boards and basically road signs and guardrails. And then the cemetery trustees, I mean, so that 40,000 on the other side of the ledger. In the old days, you maintained the cemeteries for entirely the amount of money that the cemetery fund could give you. And the cemetery fund would give you gives us about $7,000 a year. So we get 7 out of this 10 is from the interest earned on cemetery trust funds. But it offsets an expense of 45,000, so, you know, it helps a little bit, but it in no way covers the cost. So you get all done. You have a budgeted revenues in total of 1,732,000, leaving the revenues are 1,732,000, the expenses are above, and you end up with a net appropriation request of 2,033,000. Time we get to town meeting or February 4th. It sounds like that could be as much as $50,000 less, 4.9% there. And if you do the math, 94,000, which we now don't think it is 17 cents on the tax rate. The town's current tax rate is $3.50. And so that's the nutshell.
Steve, you had said at the very beginning, you passed over personnel administration.
Yes.
And said you were gonna get back to it.
Right, let me do that, and I wanted to go to the object codes on that one, I thought I had a note on it, and I don't. But we can know the difference. I misspoke earlier, let's go to the other side, let's go back up, thank you, Amy. Let's go back up. Clear the record. This is that's the MRI study, the 9,900.
Okay,
On the 19,000,
oh, sorry.
most of that increase is the software in the town office. We've got the second payment on the payroll package that we just went through, upgraded, and I've got 15,000 in there to buy $20,000 worth of IT contracts.
Yeah,
Right, and so under personnel, it's new software for the town office and IT support is driving the 19, or excuse me, under the financial administration,
Yeah.
that's the 19. The 99 is the MRI study.
Okay. Okay.
But I'm glad you remembered,
Well,
no, that was the difference. And so that gets us to where we are tonight. Again, we've seen a little bit of change already because of of what might be the greater situation. And we'll know more about that in 2 weeks. And so the object codes are available, people can see those. I'm happy to take any questions. Again, we've thrown a lot at you. And when I say object codes, it's all of these. These are all the different lines that make up the town budget. I think you'll see they tie together. The total of all of these this column is exactly the total in the spreadsheet that I'm familiar with and have used for years. And so that's where we stand with the operating budget for hearing number 1.
All right,
But
excellent, so questions? Maria?
Okay, on the highway and streets. You still have 58,000 left
yes,
from what was approved.
yes,
What is that money gonna be used for?
it goes to unassigned, it goes back to unassigned fund balance. Like all the unexpected, I mean, it's not money that's left, it's
But you raised it another 7,500.
right, because if we had hired an employee. Which was budgeted in that budget, 60,000 wouldn't have been enough to pay for that person. So
It doesn't stay in that line, Maria. Anything unexpended from last year goes into the.
I mean, we
unexpended
don't
fund
keep
balance.
it for the
We can't-
next year, it goes
Yeah.
back to,
But you're requesting,
right. 7,500 more, which again is fully funding 6 positions plus normal increases in the highway department.
This year, we were unable to hire another person, but we have it in the budget again to try to do it this year. So that money that wasn't spent is gonna go into the unassigned fund balance, which, if tradition holds, when we get,
is that?
so if tradition holds, the select board will then put anything over $1 million back to the tax,
Okay, now
to
the
lower that rate.
58,000, since you have that, couldn't that cover the new grader? But you said that they're gonna be doing another 30,000, where's that other money coming from?
Well, the
It's
The,
not.
the
other money.
25 year is over, so we can't make a 26 purchase with money from 25, right? So that appropriation is over, and we were underspent, you're absolutely right. And so that money goes back to fund balance, and then you start over with a new budget, and you say, what do you need to fund that new budget? And if we hired a person, which we budgeted for, we would need the full amount next year. We may not. We may have 60 or 70,000 left at the end of next year because we never hired anyone.
I mean, we're trying to. It's,
Right.
yeah, we
But
didn't
it-
hire because yes, we were unsuccessful. But this budget doesn't remain. So the 2025 budget, that's done and, so it's not like, oh, that 15,000 is left over. Why aren't we putting that towards something else? But so the grader was not purchased in 2025, but will be purchased in 2026. So we now need to figure out where to get that money from,
Right.
and we're hoping to do that through
But
the,
wasn't there gonna be another warrant article or something, or?
No,
No,
No.
Okay.
so
I mean,
the,
the selectmen can spend money out of all the funds that they are agents to expend in. And that one of them is the highway equipment fund. They have the authority to write a check from that. They probably wouldn't, well, the fund wouldn't support a $300,000 check, so we would have to lease it. But the fund would support a $30,000 check,
Yeah, because the 58 went to the
unassigned fund balance,
That's right.
throughout the whole budget.
yeah.
There are lines in the budget that are overspent. And,
Yeah.
and those
Yeah.
set off against the ones that are underspent.
Will I be able to see like, if somebody has their hand up who's not on screen, I can't remember
stop
how that
them.
works. I just wanna make sure, if people like to see that, that's
Right.
great, but
Does
let's
it-
stop for a minute so I can see if others have their hands up online as well. We're looking good for the moment.
Steve, do we have any more? This is unrelated,
Oh.
but we're out of cups and people are coughing and want water.
Let me go look, let me go to my next job.
Sorry.
That's important, that's important, Mike.
have 3 cough drops if they don't.
Okay.
Yeah, well.
Hi.
My wife is not.
Hi, this is Eric online. I
Hi,
cannot,
Eric, you know what? Eric, hold
I
on just
cannot
a
for the
moment.
life of me figure out how to raise my hand. There is no raise your hand.
Yeah, that's okay. Eric, I'm gonna pause you for just a second because Steve has stepped away and I'm
Sure.
assuming he will have a better answer than I will to whatever your question will be. Well, yeah.
He has the answer to everything.
We typically use for celebrations. You're right. That's what we
It's
got.
quite a select board meeting when we pull out the solo cups. Oh,
They're unused solo copies, we haven't had any
yeah, we
celebrations.
appreciate knowing that. So Steve, we've got Eric online, has a question. He wasn't able to raise his
Hi.
hand.
Yeah, I really can't figure out how to raise my hand, but
Okay,
so the grader, like Steve threw out a number of 11,000 a year. It's hard to believe that a $300,000 grader is going to last 27 years. Like, I don't think that's a good number. So 31,000 seems like a great number. Like, like let's say we've paid 300,000. Like if it lasted 15 years, I think we'd be lucky. And so it's $20,000 a year. So this new grader has to last 18 months or something. I mean,
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right, I mean-
We're 3 years, we're hoping for a little more.
Right,
Yeah.
if you're running the town numbers, you hope the road agent can get 25 out of the new grader. I agree, he may not. One of the things we have come to understand, and believe me, amongst some portion of our community, the select board will be criticized for purchasing a used grader.
Mhm.
There are those people who believe the town should only buy new, the road agent shouldn't have to work on
And they
old.
might be right.
And it is true, but the grader is the most expensive piece of equipment that the town owns. And is used the smallest number of hours.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you grade in the spring and you grade a little in the summer and you grade again in the fall, you run about 500 hours a year on the grader. But we tested the market to see if anybody wanted to grade for us. There isn't anybody to do that. We could buy a used John Deere, probably like we've got, that is half used for about 150,000. But I think you're right, Eric. I mean, I was up, even though the other one was not a great success, if you do the math, it was a inexpensive machine to own. Even though we put motors in it, like most people, change the oil in their cars, but what we didn't have was reliability. And so what we are hoping for is that this machine with a different motor would have more reliability. And yes, at $31,000 of taxpayer money as opposed to 300, it would seem like a pretty solid deal. But we will take some heat for it. There will be folks think we should
And
buy
they'd
it.
be right, and in a different budget year,
Right.
it would be a different
And
conversation.
they're welcome to be
possibly.
selectmen and town administrators and all of those things.
They have
So
to
then-
Yeah,
pay-
yeah.
They've
I-
next Friday to file.
Even if we
You
could
just,
hire somebody, where we would be spending twice that much to hire someone.
That's right.
Even if we
Right.
could find someone to do the work.
And so I think the grader, I mean, I think if you're gonna buy a grader, the used grader is a fine way to go. You can make an argument for the new grader, you can.
Sure,
You know,
well, we
you
did,
know,
that's why we put it.
But it does reduce the net appropriation by 50,000. It's paid for. It will certainly go some number of years. There's no reason to think that we can. Absolutely, I like that.
Yeah.
right, I think it makes a lot of sense. I have a couple other questions about
Yeah,
different things.
absolutely.
One, financial administration, computer support's going from 35,000 to 55,000. I know, Mike and you were talking about these small numbers, like, oh, we're gonna go from $2,000 to 1,800, like, we're going from 35,000 to 55,000. We're not going
Well, there are some-
$800.
Right, I mean, that line item supports all of the annual contracts for all the software systems that we have.
Yeah.
So it's tax collecting, motor vehicles, utilities for water billing, and there's tax collecting motor vehicles and the full fund accounting suite. And we have now changed to a different payroll, package. So there's a one-time cost of $12,000 in there. That is we have to pay for the second half of the payroll package. This year, we paid for half of it last year and we had to bring it online January 1 because it's payroll. And they don't like to start payroll mid-year. They want to start in the very, very beginning. But you're right. I mean, there's going to be, I've added 15 in there just for this new IT person who's not Mark Cohen and Cornish. And I don't know if that's a good number or a bad number. We'll know more by February 4th.
Yeah, all right, I guess, I mean, you say, I mean, I guess there are 11 employees, but when you think about the town, you only think about 3 or 4 or 5 people, and you say, okay, there are 5 computers, like, how much could this cost?
There's 7. One of the things that
Not me.
Mark Cohen was comfortable running Windows 10 for another year because of some patches that you can put on and our perceived exposure to ourselves from our own assessment.
Yeah,
But the new people are absolutely not willing to keep Windows 10 in the office. So we will have to buy all new computers for the town office. Because these are of an age where you won't upgrade them. The police did that last year. They upgraded
Yeah.
theirs to 11. And so there was some hardware that's gonna have to be purchased in there. The other thing that's happening, and I don't know how, there's no direct cost to the taxpayers. Primex, our insurance company, is essentially hired a company, and I think they work for government agencies. Overwatch, I always call them Overreach, which is wrong. Overwatch, which is going to convert everything you see in Plainfield, anywhere you see a .org, it's gonna be converted to a .gov. And that gives us
Yeah.
more protection. And so that's a must do, but Primex pays for that.
The schools already.
But there are gonna be some other things like emails, which we don't pay for
Right.
currently, which.
Right, Mike
But
thinks
that's
there's
why
a
the
chance
police
we're gonna
has
get.
their own, because what we use for the town is not adequately
Yeah.
protected, so,
Yeah.
I mean, that'll be
Right.
another expense as well.
All right, it's just hard to understand, like, you go to Consumer Reports and they have all these computers for $1,500, and then you go to Microsoft Office and that cost me $9.99 a month. It's hard to get to 55,000. So, but
Once you get
okay,
it
I'll just
different,
leave you.
it's-
Right,
it's
but there's,
different.
you know,
It's
there's
different.
2025, whatever the previous year's number, that's in there, that's just normal operating maintenance.
Yeah,
That's just
okay.
Avatar, $7,000 or $8,000 a year, MTS, $10,000 a year for the software that we have in the office now. And so
Okay.
they're big numbers, but what we
Yep.
weren't spending any money, it turns out, we weren't spending any money on IT, and apparently we're going to.
Okay.
Mark was relatively inexpensive.
What
And
else do you
then-
have? Any other questions?
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's okay. You just said you had a few, so I want to make sure we get them all.
Yeah, on let's see, on the highway, the salt is going from 35,000 to 55,000. That's a 60% increase. It's like, holy
And
smoke.
that number, if you look back in old numbers, it bounces all over the place. It's a great place for town administrators to try to save money until you look and see what you spent last year.
Okay.
I think we're at, what's salt now, Rich? Is it 88 a ton? $90 a ton. We used to pay 35, I can remember, but now it's 90 a ton.
Okay.
and so-
All right. No, it's just a huge increase, and it's like, I mean, if we use it, we use it. So I mean, I believe in salting the roads. Don't get me wrong.
I can tell you some good fun town meeting stories about salting, but I won't.
Okay. And just one comment, Plainfield Town Hall. I see we also have, like, when you're talking about the cost of the Plainfield Town Hall for the town, and maybe we'll get into that someday, but there is another $5,000 in electrical and supplies it's just a line item in this budget. So there's $5,000 there. There's $20,000 in the money we put aside every year for, and then they want another 30 on top of that. So it's important to look at all the numbers here, what that Plainfield Town Hall is costing us.
Yeah,
Right.
well, you go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say from an operating perspective, by the time you heat it with something, because you gotta put some BTUs in it when people are in there, no matter how you put them in. You pay for the electricity and you pay for the internet service, phone service, internet service. The town hall is never gonna be a profit center for the town, right? The rentals won't pay the operating costs. The taxpayers are always gonna be asked to subsidize some of it. The question for the community is how much do you value the building and how much are you willing to pay? And what we have mostly heard is we value it highly and we are willing to pay.
Yeah, and so some of what we've had, well, first we learned that line is for both buildings, right? And there's quite a bit of work going into the Plainfield Town Hall. And at this point, the select board and I mean, there's the committee, which has done an awful lot of work, but we've committed to it, the board has committed to it being a town building. And if it's going to be a town building, there's an awful lot that needs to be done. And the town hall committee, who has done an unbelievable amount of fundraising on their own, has asked for that line and we've agreed. And some of that is because they have some really serious money coming in through grants that we needed to, but the people who are giving us the grants wanted a little bit of town.
It's a matching.
Town dollars
It's a
in
matching,
that
yeah.
town. So it is a change, and certainly that's can be a discussion. But
I don't
but
think
that's
we
why
see
we
it as
have
an
to-
ongoing third.
No, we don't. I mean, we've been told by the community, they don't know what it's gonna look like next year, but for this year, they were hopeful we would
Yeah,
do that.
I need to chime in here as
Yes,
well.
please.
Because you asked us at the last meeting to
Yes.
discuss it in the finance committee, and we did. And I want to speak to that in a couple of different ways. The important answer is that we could not reach consensus
Yeah.
on whether or not the town should in fact spend that money.
Yeah.
because there were differing opinions about it based on a municipal building that, it is, we do call it a municipal building, but it doesn't really have a municipal function.
Mhm.
And so the question is, you know, should the town use taxes to support it?
Yeah,
And there was different opinions about that. What the opinions were, where there was agreement. Number one, again, echoing what you said about the town hall committee,
mhm,
is great support for them and great thanks for the work that they do. We asked for additional information. I've recently provided that to the committee. I'm not sure where the consensus will be ultimately with that additional information. But at our discussion, the consensus of the group was that this is a particular item that should be pulled out of the budget
mhm.
and to give people an opportunity in the community to say yay or nay about it.
Yeah.
And so that was, if we were, at this point, if we were asked for a recommendation, that would be our recommendation.
Okay,
Now, whether you do it as a warrant article, which kind of announces to the community ahead of time that this is an issue, or you do it by asking the committee to amend the budget, which is another route that's possible. Or you decide you don't agree with us and by golly, we're gonna leave it in. I mean, that's kind of up to you guys.
right.
Okay, but that was the recommendation of the committee.
All right, I appreciate your, you know, because it hasn't been completely clear on our end either. We've gone back and forth and discussed similar issues, but
So,
where we are now, so.
so
okay.
that's where we are at
That's
the moment, but we're going to have further discussions based on the information that Bev has provided to us.
Excellent. Dana, did you have your hand up or
No.
were you distracted? Okay, just want to thank you. Thank you. Frank.
Can I?
Please,
switch subjects?
please.
Okay. I got one other thing that I feel is important to say, and that has to do with the municipal study of the town.
Yeah.
I don't know that we were the driving force for that, but last year we made a special effort to recommend that kind of project be undertaken by the town. We call the changes coming as once in a generation, but if a generation is 20 years, it's really once in 2 generations.
Yeah.
You know, and so.
How long the new person lasts, but yeah.
I'm not saying that Steve's getting old, but you know.
Yes.
And so it is a unique opportunity to really have an outside assessment of how we do business and what should we make changes and if so, what. And so we support that very much. And I personally support the technology changes. I think that's important.
As the webmaster of the town.
Yeah, I have a vested interest in all of that.
Mike is
I'm working really hard to get out of that job.
I know, it's been.
Mike doesn't think my typical Brook Road #2 password is particular, or Brook Trout #2.
This is an open meeting.
Right, I understand, but I change it a lot.
Yeah.
But Mike would like more
What's your
complicated.
passwords in an open meeting? Put that in the minutes.
I can't keep them straight if I don't. Right, we actually put them on the board behind you.
Okay.
Oh, that way you don't forget them.
Stop. Okay,
I rest my case.
thank you. Thank you.
See, you're right.
Other questions on the budget?
So I think, should we go to,
We should go to this.
I mean, again, we're continuing to work this because of some changes
Correct.
tonight and we will.
Oh, Clint.
Clint Swift's got one.
Yeah, I just, on this issue of whether or not the Town Hall Reserve Fund is raised this one year from 20,000 to 50,000. There seems to be, I'm just not clear from what Mike indicated was the Finance Committee's advisory opinion. I'm just not clear on what the position of the Finance Committee is. And the reason I think that that's important tonight, of course, the preference, maybe you can speak to that, Mike, and then I'll be back to you.
Yeah, Clint, basically, we could not reach consensus to take a firm position on it. We needed more information, which we recently received from Bev. We will consider it again. But the general consensus of the group was that it is an issue that the community ought to have a direct say in. And if you put it in the budget, I mean, in theory, they can do anything with the budget, but the consensus of our group was that we ought to give them a straight shot at saying, yes, we want to do this, or no, we don't.
I mean, we will probably make, it's a separate warrant article, the funding of all the reserve funds. And so in the presentation for that article, we would probably talk about any deltas, right, any changes. We thought we were gonna be talking about a grader, because it was good, that equipment lineup. But the town hall fund getting 30 extra thousand, I think would be part of that discussion. In telling people what that request is, so it will get some direct communication, no matter whether it's left where it is now or put as a special warrant article. Town meeting's gonna know that we're asking for $30,000 additional dollars for the Plainfield Town Hall, and somebody will say, what does that mean?
So, can I
Yeah,
speak?
please.
So one of the things I'd like to point out about that is that, yes, it is a $30,000 increase to what would have been the town hall repair funds, but, that is, to help offset the $125,000 LCHIP grant. And
So it enables 60,000.
Yes.
it enables
Yeah.
60,000, and the other side of that is that if that we're not, as the town, we are not taking responsibility for the entirety of that matching amount of money in order to get the full scale of repairs done. The amount of work that needs to be done goes far beyond the $60,000 that this will gain us. So, and I guess I'm speaking in favor of leaving it in there because we're not taking the full responsibility for that full LCHIP matching sum. But I think it's entirely appropriate for the town to be taking some part of that. And, so I think that increasing that by $30,000 is a responsible thing to do from the town's perspective.
And I don't think there's any scenario where we get out of town meeting that it's not a point of discussion. We are going to be talking about the Plainfield Town Hall. They'll probably be doing some kind of a presentation.
I'd like it
I was
to.
gonna ask.
Yeah,
yeah.
That would be
And
great.
we will be talking about, the fact that the 30 is in there, and if you like it, great. If you don't, you can amend down. You can amend back, you can amend it up if you think we've been too cheap, that the number should be bigger.
But did that answer your question?
Yeah, yes, pretty much. I mean, the reason, and thank you, Elise, for your position on this, because if this does come up at town meeting, of course, anything the finance committee does is advisory. The select board is the governing body, and so it would be important, certainly, for the town hall committee to have the support of the select board on this. Just to clarify, this is a request only for this year, 30,000, which will be matched by the LCHIP grant. So that's 60,000 for the town. This particular LCHIP grant of $250,000 it expires December 31, 2027. There's a possibility we are going to go out and aggressively seek funds this year. Of course, it's a different environment thanks to government pullbacks, blah, 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 all the rest of that with foundations. But we're going to go out there and seek private funds, foundation funds, and actually the town's support on this will help in that effort, particularly with foundations, because as Amy indicated, they are looking for that. They want a town that's got its oar in the water when they're requesting grants. But this is absolutely positively not a permanent 30,000 bump up request for the town hall funds. The reason it was important to come to some conclusion on this tonight, at least from some on the committee's thinking was that the deadline for a separate warrant article is February 3rd. That's 5 Tuesdays from town meeting date. And the next budget meeting won't be until February 4th. So that opportunity will be lost. But do we have assurances that this will be presented to the town as 50,000? And we'll leave it up for discussion at that point?
That's a good question.
Right, I know, I mean, can't speak for him, but I know Ron was very in favor, was in
Yeah.
favor of the one-time thing. We wanted to
I
hear
think
from the
it
finance
stays.
committee.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think it still.
Bev, you got your hand up?
yeah, I want to finish
Oh, sorry,
conversation
sorry.
first though, and then I'll certainly get it back, but I mean. I hadn't considered pulling it out, so I think what we can do is make sure that there's a really clear discussion
Yes.
at that point.
Yeah, I was gonna say that would be, to me, if you agree with what they spend the money on, it's the cheapest dollars you can get, right?
Yeah.
It's, you're getting matched at whatever it is, a 30
Yeah.
or 60% rate. So again, the key point is what is it being spent on? And much of the list that I'm aware, I'm not aware of the full list. So, but much of what I am aware of could be considered deferred maintenance. I mean,
Yes,
painting that building and repairing the clapboards and the trim and those things. are
well
a
over
ton of money.
$50,000.
Right, so to me, it's a no-brainer, but I think it's an important opportunity. To Mike's point, or to the finance committee's point, Bev and the group should take that opportunity to say, this is what it's for, and get already understanding, this is the cheapest money, and
Yeah,
and get buy-in for what they want to spend it on, all the things they want to spend it on. You know, to me, that.
Yeah.
it's a great opportunity, but.
We're all in the same boat. I'm sorry. You should also understand that we took a position based on the information that we had at that
Yeah.
time.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to consider it again.
yeah,
And I can't speak for what the committee is going to come out
Yeah.
with, but
and those dates are just the real issue, right? That February 3rd,
Right, well,
we're not
it's
being to the
it's the
4th, I
reason
mean,
the
I would,
second,
yeah.
it's the reason the second budget hearing comes after the period is closed, because you have to have a
Now
public
it's a-
hearing
on
on
a
the
final.
expenditures. I mean, the politics are difficult because the Plainfield Town Hall Committee is your committee.
Yeah.
And you have to recommend on every appropriation. You have to say whether you approve it or don't approve it. And if you approved it, you put it in just the capital, you know, the fund. So if it's a separate article, it almost implies that the selectmen don't approve it, and you have to say
Well, yeah.
whether you approve it or don't approve
And
it.
I think we do, and we've had this discussion in previous meetings as well about this, and we did make a commitment to the Plainfield Town Hall Committee that money would be there with select board support. I mean, certainly, we understand the, you know, the
I mean,
finance
I
committee.
think what
may-
we're hearing
may
is
not.
just make
So
sure.
I think
discuss
I
it.
think I will answer Clint to say, yes, we intend to keep it in the budget as it is.
For this one.
For this 1 year, yes, for this 1 year,
For this one.
yeah.
Right,
Um,
and you may be
so-
in trouble with Bev Widger later,
Well,
Clint,
yeah.
because you are very definitive in that it is not that it is a 1-year commitment.
say,
Bev
that
has
is-
not
that is
been
not-
quite that strong.
That isn't what we heard, but that's okay. We're talking about this year now, so I'm okay with it. Bev, we'll hear from you now.
I will just take a moment and just say thank you for those of you who spoke in support of the project. And one of the things that the 30,000 does is it gets us started, and it continues what we've been working on and shows that we're still going, and this is still what we need to do. And somebody mentioned painting. Painting is the most expensive thing that we have to fund, if you can believe that. And I just want to say that, we had been talking to a group about, well, we needed $4,000 for the humidifier, dehumidifier for the stage. We ended up getting a donation, an anonymous donation from the New Hampshire Charitable Foundation for $4,000, which makes me think that that's where that's coming from. So the more that we can talk about what we're doing and we can show progress, the more that we can fundraise. And I also have right now 4 different grants that we have to write before March 1st. And maybe we'll be lucky to get some of those as well. But we're asking for 30,000 to get a jump start so we can continue the momentum and show people that we're still committed to the project. And thank you very much.
Well, thank you for
Thanks.
adding to that. And as always, thank you to the committee. This committee, for those of you who don't know, has done an extraordinary amount of work and continues to.
So, just
Yeah.
in case people don't understand why it's going into a capital reserve fund if we want to spend it right.
Yeah, but that would be
So-
great to have that
so-
explanation.
So because the grant is the 2-year grant, we couldn't put it in the
Mm.
operating budget for 26 if we didn't spend it until 27, because we couldn't carry it over years. So the only way we could really get money up front so we could start would be to put it into the capital reserve fund and then expend it back from there. Because we feared that originally we didn't think we could do anything until we raised all the money. And if we didn't do anything in 2026, then we wouldn't be able to use the appropriated money. So that's why it's going into the capital reserve fund, and then we'll have another vote when we want to spend it from you to take it back out again, hopefully this
Is
year.
the painting plan for 2026?
The painting was probably, I'm not sure, probably would be, I don't know. We haven't got down to.
I suspect that the painting will be 2027 because what first has to happen is that we have some pieces of wood that have to be
let's repair. Yeah.
replaced.
We have to get
Or
on someone's
fixed and
schedule.
repaired before the painting can be done.
Yeah.
So there are old shingles and things like that that have to be taken care of. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So that's actually and something you may want to include. In your talking about the reserve fund.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes.
for you, yeah, like why we put that in.
Yeah, no, and.
I mean, I knew it, but it's helpful to hear it and
Right,
thank you.
and the state and
Yeah.
the selectmen are
That way.
agents to expend on that
Yeah.
fund, so it allows you to retain it from one year to the next, and
Yeah.
if it takes long, so.
And if we raise enough money, then we won't use it at all.
Look at that. There you go.
I like that
Yeah.
thinking.
Fantastic. All right,
So should
so
we
I
close
think we
the
will.
first
Thank
close
you.
the Budget hearing and yes, and we'll move into the SB2 hearing.
And so by statute, if we receive a petition warrant article and it's for SB2, we have to have a hearing on it. And so the record will show that we are having that hearing tonight. And so this is the petition that we received. And what I typically know is that I think our select board and your town administrator are not in favor of SB2, and we will be speaking against it at town meeting, but you may want to hear what, you know, I think the point of the hearing is to hear what other people
Yeah,
think.
and fair enough, right? I mean, this isn't the first time it's come up here in this town and certainly in other towns, so we do want to hear from others. Yeah, absolutely. Want to speak? Yeah, right.
Yes, yeah.
When was that, Paul? Do you remember? I remember it, so it has to be in the last.
Was it at a town meeting?
years.
the moderator.
Right, but it was within the last,
15
yeah,
years.
yeah, I do remember that. So,
But the point of the public hearing is to hear from the public.
absolutely, so,
So
but I know, like,
It
just
is.
do it.
So I have a very simple comment, if I may, which is the discussion we just had would be moot in that world, right? The opportunity to amend a budget, budgeted amounts on the floor of the town meeting would be moot because you couldn't do it.
Right, you can amend at the deliberative session, but then you have to vote on it.
Right.
But that's right. So there would be no discussion.
Communication piece to that, people have to understand they have to vote twice.
Right, I mean, one of the criticisms of Senate Bill 2 has been, I think the legislature, and Paul probably knows more about this than I do, the legislature in trying to find an alternative for towns to consider, particularly as they got larger, came up with a deliberative session. But you already have an attendance problem at town meeting. And so the deliberative session, people seem to think has even lower attendance than traditional town meeting. And so it makes it very open to be amended or played with by special interest groups that may not represent the whole town. So in Croydon a few years ago, they gutted a whole bunch of money out of the budget at the deliberative session.
That's right.
You don't have any opportunity to change that. You can only vote on that at the ballot on Tuesday. Whenever that Tuesday is, it's in April probably in our case. And so personally, I think SB2 would be more likely if you didn't have the deliberative session, if you let this process develop the budgets and let this process develop the warrant articles and then let the voters vote. But the deliberative session is the fly in the ointment, is that's where the trouble has been.
Well,
I think it's clear that the legislature felt this was an option.
Yeah.
And it is, and about 1/3 of the municipalities have adopted it. So for some municipalities, they found that it worked. There are 4 that adopted it and went back out. 3 of them are in the Mascoma Valley, which is interesting. What I think Steve mentioned, the larger towns, I looked at the 73 towns that are in it. And I took the time to actually sit down and find their 24 estimated population. And the average population was 7,400, median was 66, something like that. And so I think it indicates that when you get to the point of having a population in town, where you just can't get people together comfortably in one
Yeah.
place, it makes sense.
Yeah.
We came close to this, I think, on the library issue. We had 450 roughly people that came out. That was the max at the school. We did it. But, you know, we have a population of 2,500, something like that now. Checklist 1,800. If we got much larger, you start to have just logistical issues. And I think it works and it may fit in some municipalities. I don't think we need to do it. I think there is more buy-in for those who attend town and school meeting to have discussions like you had tonight, and we will probably have at those meetings. Than there is at just coming in and voting. There's no question that the number of people voting at the Australian ballot and the SB2 towns is larger than what percentage-wise of their checklist than what come out at school and town meetings. But I guess you have to weigh in your own mind, is that a knowledgeable vote? And does it get into the nuances that we were talking about tonight? And so which is better? I mean, it's a personal choice. It's not, obviously this is an option and so it works. So to vote for this is not bad, but is it the best that we could do?
Yeah.
I guess that's.
Yeah, Steve, I have a question and you might know the answer, Paul, because I didn't I meant to look at the voting numbers. And sure, more come out, but often it's tied to also, you know, a state or a presidential election. When it's just a town, you know, as a person who counts the ballots, sometimes it's a lot lower when it's just a town. I mean, is it the numbers of people come out?
Right, well.
And I don't know
we
how.
Probably saw at most town meetings about 200, 150, 200 people.
Yeah.
That's a typical town meeting. 400.
About a 400.
400 was a biggie, right? We've really made them mad about something, or there's an issue that is, you know,
Or there's, yeah.
yeah, there's a vote that they want to be part of.
So, I mean, it is a significant number, but.
Right, I mean, I think all of us have tried to do things that would increase participation at town meeting.
Yeah.
Again, my issue is the deliberative session is where the mischief comes.
Yeah.
And we just don't need the mischief because it means you then have to repeat things, or you have a default budget, or you go to court and ask for special permissions. And it's just very complicated. But I think you had others who wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely. Maria.
So we've been a minority rule town since I've moved here over 30 years ago. Less than 250 people are the ones that are able to come and vote at the town meeting. You're forcing people to come. In my case, my mother was dying. There's no way I'm gonna leave my mother, you know, at home by herself and me come to the meeting. So, and there's a lot of people that work 6 days a week. They work on Saturdays, they work on, so, and then their parents that have children. And, you know, it's a hardship for them. And then they're elderly that are unable to drive or, you know, just make it to their health or whatever. So the 250 people, like, for example, that on the school board, we're in a mess on account of the rest of the 220, you know, the 2,000 people left over are not even given a chance to, they pay the taxes, but they're not given a chance to come and vote and say their piece. And so what basically, just like the Supreme Court is trying to take away everybody's right to vote, by putting all of these things. The town has been doing that for years.
Maria, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I hear what you're saying, but what I would like to try to understand is how do you see that switching to this, the SB2, is going to change that?
It's gonna change it greatly. Then you're gonna have more people participate. They're gonna be voting from you're gonna send the ballot over, they will vote, they have the. they'll
Well, we're
have
not
their
sending them a
say.
ballot. They still need to come out and vote.
That's
Yeah, no,
what
yeah.
I'm looking to find.
I'm trying to understand it too. I'm just, yeah.
But they'll be able to vote,
But they can vote now.
for example.
That's why I'm wondering.
No, don't you have to send a ballot?
Send a ballot
people.
to, no.
Is there an absentee?
I mean,
Right,
they could request
I
an
mean, you can
absentee.
request them, but the vast
Yes, they
majority
could
will vote.
request an absentee.
Yeah.
That's where I'm
The
getting
same thing, like,
confused.
they were talking, he was saying about 400 people showed up for the library. We voted it down 3 times and it still passed. First, they voted it down
Well-
because they wanted money, us to fund money. Everybody said, we can't afford it. And then suddenly we had money. And they said, oh yeah, now we have money, so we don't have to ask the town for money. 3 times, it kept going and going. So, and I've been at meetings where people, they vote. And then suddenly everybody leaves and then they try to pass it again.
Well,
So,
it's during the
know-
deliberative session. It's not that the meeting's over and then they try to pass it again. And I
No,
understand.
no, and at least at the one meeting that I was there, somebody had ethics and said, no, we cannot. the
I know
vote is
what you're
the same."
talking about
Yeah.
and we can agree or not agree on what happened, but it was within the deliberative session. And it was within the law. So I understand what you're saying. So yeah, that's fine. I mean, so did you want to speak to this more? Or, I mean,
No,
this body's not
everybody's
deciding
given
it,
a
so we're
chance to
listening.
vote.
Yeah.
And right now, this town is not giving anybody a chance to vote, except, the people that can't make it,
Mhm.
so you say to them, tough luck,
Yeah.
That's,
Well, I don't
okay,
think we say tough
excuse
luck,
me.
but go on, yeah.
I just,
We're not saying tough luck to anyone. I'm still at a loss to understand how. And I'm saying you because you're the one that's speaking. I don't mean to
yeah.
but I'm still at a loss to understand how you think that changing to this. The people who are motivated to participate in the government at any level. Are going to be able to work within the system to be able to make their voices heard. But initially, you have to have the motivation to start from. So we can try to inspire people to to participate. But I would like to hear how you think that moving to this makes it easier for people to find that motivation.
You have not just 1, but 2 meetings. So then that way they have a choice of being able to, attend, or I really thought that you have to have a vote. Somebody could send in the vote.
But there's no
Well,
vote
they-
at both sessions, right?
There's only one.
Right,
deliberative
I mean,
meeting.
there was a deliberative session and then there's a balloting vote, so there were 2
Yeah.
opportunities. And I think if you requested an absentee ballot, you would get an absentee
Yeah.
ballot.
Yes, absolutely.
But we don't broadcastly mail ballots to anybody.
Right.
You have to come in,
And then you have to return it.
At least
But
they
we
know that they can get a ballot and
Yeah.
and if they can't make it, they'll be able to vote.
Yeah,
But
and I-
that's the case now, isn't it, that you can request? an
Well, not
absentee
to-
but
ballot?
not on the Saturday.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think, these are fine arguments. I mean, these are arguments that have value. And I guess we'll put it on we'll bring it to the town. But Stephanie wanted to talk and Mike wanted to talk, so I don't know if you.
so
And Stephanie
just
was
one
first.
thing, with my, PTA hat on when my kids were in the elementary school, one of the biggest, community service projects for the 7th and 8th graders was to get their babysitting certification so that then they could provide free childcare for any children. I don't care if you were 6 months old, all the way up to 16. so that parents could actually go in and listen and participate and know that their kids were safe during school meetings or town meeting. The other thing is since I've put my hat on as community resource director, I have always said to anybody that needed a ride, I will drive the school bus. I will go and get you. I will bring you and I'll bring you home. There's lunch right at town meeting and school meeting. I mean, it's another fundraiser for the class trip, you know, so all of their needs could be met. Again, I think that, you know, people need to be invested and want to be there. There's many opportunities to get them there and to support them there. It's their want to be there.
So Mike is next.
At least they're gonna have.
Maria,
Yeah.
Mike's next. You've spoken, and we'll get to you next after Mike.
I'm not speaking on behalf or in favor of SB2.
Yeah.
But I think the picture that you're painting is not an accurate picture. There are people in this community who are not going to sit 3 or 4 hours.
Yep.
Who can't.
Yep.
And that is their opportunity to vote on the budget.
Yeah.
They don't have the opportunity to get a mail-in ballot for town meeting.
Right.
And so, and I think what Paul said, is statistically, more people do in fact
Absolutely.
vote if all they have to do is come in and vote. So I'm not suggesting that SB2 is the right answer, but I do think you have to recognize that there is a difference between driving up, casting a ballot and going home
Mhm.
and sitting in town
Absolutely.
meeting for 4 hours.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Point well taken.
Maria and then Brad.
Yeah, with the SB2, you have the opportunity to also have the budget committee. Because they would, like, for example, the finance committee doesn't really have any power, doesn't have to say anything. It's you who decide, but the budget committees will be a group that will actually be connecting, you know, making sure that whatever taxes or increases and whatever expenses are voted upon is gonna benefit the community. It's not gonna be, you know, like, for example, last year, an expense for 130,000 should have been voted by the town, the taxpayers. And the selectmen did not give them an opportunity to vote and
Okay,
to even speak about it.
so we're not gonna rehash that again, Maria,
This is
but
why SB2 is important, because that would never have happened.
well, okay, so you want to speak, Brad?
Yeah, sorry, I had a question for Paul as to whether anything that he saw in his research indicated whether the communities were happier with the results. Because one thing that I wonder is if in fact, you know, what if you got the worst case scenario, which is people casting votes that weren't based on whatever, they had other access to grind. The reaction the next year would be whoever didn't like that vote. So did you get any sense of an increased oscillation in policy that would be sort of an indication that the process was being used not to get good government, but to push fringe things that then got pushback reaction the next year?
For example,
So you got less stability.
He's,
in your
he's
government.
asking Paul.
So did you see anything like that? I don't know what it would
I
look
checked with
like.
the Department of Revenue, and I checked with the Municipal Association, and DRA had nothing, they were only quantitative.
Hmm.
And then pretty much the same thing with the Municipal Association. There were a couple analyses that were done back in the 2011-12 stage. And they were comparing, in the towns that adopted SB2, they were comparing the number of people that turned out at the deliberative session vis-a-vis the checklist versus how many turned out at the voting vis-a-vis the checklist, did some comparisons. So there again, a quantitative comparison, but nothing as far as qualitative. The only thing is you hear is anecdotal.
Yeah.
Like Enfield and everything that Jim Croydon like that, but no, nothing qualitative at all.
Thanks.
Mike.
I think it's important because we're in a public hearing to distinguish between SB2 and the budget committee.
Yes,
Because they are not related. They are two completely separate things.
that's right.
And voting for SB2 does not get you a budget committee. And the budget committee has its own issues. There's some people that think that if we pass that the finance committee would just jump in and do that. And I want to assure you that's not the case. That's going to be the kind of job that, very few people will really want to do well.
Paul, Maria had her hand up. We'll go to Maria and then I'll go right to you. I just want to make sure.
Last year, the town of Enfield passed SB2. They had originally, many years ago, had SB2 and then went back to the regular town meeting. And they chose to go back to SB2 because it wasn't working for them. Now that they had, so there is a lot of other towns that have done this.
And I think we've heard some towns find it works well for them,
Yeah.
right? So it's not, but we're,
And it's not like you said, oh, we're gonna have shenanigans or whatever term you used.
I don't think
I
that
don't
was.
think anyone said shenanigans.
Yeah,
But
no,
we've seen
you know,
things in other towns.
The people in this town, they're honest people, they actually, they're responsible and they want to participate, just like, she was saying how, this couple was there for 40 years. Maybe this couple doesn't even attend the town meetings, but they've selected people and they trust. They put their trust in the elected officials, but in some cases that might not work. So having the opportunity to ask for the ballot so that they can vote. Nobody wants a detriment to this town.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone is suggesting that the people of Plainfield are anything
Well, no,
but
but
honest
this
in
is,
their voting and their
So-
participation. I don't think anyone's suggesting that, so. Paul,
I think just agreeing with Mike, that my reading is that SB2 and the budget, so called the budget committee act are totally separate. You can be
yes.
one, have one and not the other. And I guess the question I have, maybe Steve, I tried to read the statute, it's convoluted a little bit, but my understanding that if we adopted the budget committee in town, because the school district and the town are the same geographic area, and because we have one other village district, not the water department, the Meriden Water and Sewer, that all three would be controlled by this budget committee, and the governing bodies, the select board, the village district, and the school board would not make their budgets, but the budget committee would. And the budget committee would have some people from those, but they.
Yes, I think that I hadn't blended in the private village districts, but I think it is true that, and again, there's another hearing coming up on the budget committee. We haven't had that hearing yet, but we'll have that one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, we'll have that one in just a second. I mean, I think one thing that we haven't mentioned is for those of us who do the work that we do, whether you're a selectman, a finance committee member, or a town administrator, there is a significant value historically and going forward that comes from the discussion at town meeting, right? We always go into town meeting, traditional town meeting, and we are still a very small town. We go into town meeting thinking one thing and coming out with some other information.
I've
We learn
absolutely
it.
changed my vote in town meeting.
Right,
Absolutely.
and so part of that process is lost with SB2, because the deliberative session just doesn't get the attendance that town meeting does. And so I would hate to see us lose that piece. Nowhere else in the country can you come and be your own legislator. Your vote counts. You are a member of the House. And so it's why I think a lot of us favor it, is that the wisdom of the many in person, where you have to listen, you have to learn. And yes, it does mean you might not go skiing that weekend, or that you might have to come and sit through a meeting that can be long for all of us at times. But in the end, the outcomes of town meeting for this community have been very positive, and I see no reason why we would change that.
And recognize that, like Mike said, there are people who aren't skiing. That's not why they're there.
Right,
They're not there.
Right.
They,
I
they.
mean, no
yeah.
system will work for everyone.
Correct. And that's
And that's just the reality of life.
Right, yeah. So if we are done with the SB2. I don't see any other hands raised on SB2 for tonight's
I didn't
discussion.
know, Leonard, did you guys have any comment on SB2?
I have a comment. I think we really, or maybe what you're missing, I'm not sure whether you're missing it or not, but you talked about the fact that we have a town that really cares, and we all care, and we do have a chance to vote. We vote for the people who are actually doing the job, and that's one of the ways we can exercise our right. We hear from the people who are running for selectmen, and we know a lot about them prior to voting, and we do vote for them, so that's a deliberative process. What SB2 does, it gives the people a chance to vote, but it's up or down, without all the information that the town meeting gives. The town meeting gives information to the people who are voting in detail, in excruciating detail. Detail when they're voting. If it were to go to a ballot, it would be emotional and people would be voting without having the information. No, please don't shake your head because we all have emotions. But I think that it's really important to have the votes be votes that are based on all the information we can possibly get. And SB2 would only have anything up or down, doesn't do that. We have the votes to give the people who make the decisions, make the hard decisions and do the work. And then we have the town meeting. So we can vote for those folks. And if we don't think they're doing a good job, we kick them out. I mean, so we do have a democracy and we are voting, but we're all voting with a lot of information. I think that's the important thing.
So it looks like you don't think that we have a town meeting. There are two meetings. The town meeting still continues. But then you give the other people, the other 2,000 plus people, another opportunity to, to be able to vote. You don't physically, somebody cannot physically be at the town meeting due to circumstances.
If you don't feel that enough people can go to town meeting, why do you feel that enough people would go to the deliberative sessions?
Well,
You'd have a
That's what I was trying to.
yeah, but at least everybody
get
would
people to
have
show up
a
to select
chance
board
to vote
meetings.
on whatever
Can tonight.
the people that were there.
Without
Well, they-
information. We'll do it.
Yeah. So, yeah, thank you, yeah, so, thank you, and is there more to say about, for tonight, and there's plenty of time to discuss this, we'll discuss this, there'll be a second hearing on the 4th and then we'll also, of course, be discussing it at town meeting, but is there any more on tonight for SB2? If not, we'll move to the budget committee hearing.
And again, this one is a complimentary hearing, not required.
That
but-
is right, yes.
Not, we're
Brought
just
to you by
giving
the
you something
council.
extra for
Yeah.
your ticket tonight.
But more is, yeah,
And so this is the,
but we do want to hear from people.
oh, absolutely, and
Absolutely.
that's why we are having the
That's why
hearing.
we're having it.
And this one, there are some problems with this article that I think the moderator will work on at town meeting. It was petitioned, the petitioners are not clear on whether the official budget committee would be elected or appointed and how many. The
Well, that was
official
my
budget
question.
committee can be, I think, from
3 to 12.
3 to 12, and we're still learning about the budget committee, but I think what Paul is saying, and it's not a 3/5 majority, it's a 3/5, it's a majority vote.
Ah.
So this has a lower bar than SB2, a much lower bar.
Would this come out, I'm sorry, I'm a little lost on this process here, but if SB2 will come up for a vote first,
Yes,
should it pass, we'll go on to this. If it fails, do we still,
well,
do we
as this
still-
one is written, it says if it passed, and so moderator Cassidy will have an opinion from town council.
Right.
As to how to proceed based on what happens at SB2.
Okay,
This particular article says that if we passed SB2, we vote on this
We
one,
vote on
which implies that if
that
we
we
didn't
don't.
pass, we don't vote on
that's
this.
where I'm.
And so that's one issue. Anytime we receive a petition, it has to go on the warrant regardless of how it's written.
Yeah.
And if it's an illegal purpose or a purpose that town meeting doesn't have say on it, the moderator will speak to that issue, but we will still vote on it.
And have the movers of this article suggested that they might have some clarity for us
Well,
on,
that would be Maria, so we can ask her.
before we get to town meeting on the size, whether people would be appointed or elected. I think it would be helpful for the voters to know what they were voting on.
Yeah, well, this one here, was the same. Writing was, the comment there was the one that Enfield used.
Okay, but we would as a town need to make a decision about if we wanted to adopt, I mean, I can't see us voting to adopt a budget committee without some parameters around it. How do we get those people? Are they appointed and who appoints them? Is it a?
Right,
Are
well,
they
and the
voted in?
statute says that the moderator will thrash that out of the meeting
Okay.
at some point, which,
Because we're not getting a sense of it from the mover.
right, and I think
And is it
Barry
a
will
paid
comment on
position?
that in his legal opinion.
Is it a paid position? Of being on this budget committee, is
you
it
know.
an expense to the town?
I don't know.
I don't think we know.
We don't know.
I mean, what we do know is that it really, I think we've had a finance committee for many years that we've worked very, very well with.
Yeah.
And has worked well, with both the town and the school. This is a very different animal and maybe more dangerous than
Well,
SB2
this-
in that it removes the budgeting process from the select board. It
Yes.
becomes another group who knows even less about the town's operations.
And the select board?
But, well, no, I mean, and so it's.
I'm
not gonna take that personally.
And so from Mike's comment earlier,
Yeah,
you know. If they're gonna build the budget for the town, they're gonna spend hundreds of hours doing that
Yeah,
work.
well, that's right.
And who wants to do that? I mean, most of us don't.
We have a hard time getting volunteers for a lot of things, but very sincerely, Maria, and is there a deadline for,
Clarity.
I mean, right, is it
Right.
February 3rd to get clarity?
Well, to be
Because,
clear, we have to vote on this one because it was received. And
yes,
so if we get another
Oh,
one,
yeah.
we vote on that one too.
so that somebody would have to amend it from the floor. I'm
No.
looking at Paul, Paul's like, I'm not the moderator. We're doing.
No, it is that article.
That's, okay, that answers my question.
And so the other piece of it, that I think we're trying to, understand is, again, we are going to, on the floor of town meeting, try to figure out. Are we asking 9 people? We haven't been able to get 6, right? The moderator, this year was the first year he was able to get 6 advisory only finance committee
Right.
people. How do you get 6 people to give up a couple hundred hours of their life doing budgeting for the town? And are we appointing them or are we electing them? If you're electing them, it has no shot. Nobody runs for town offices now or school offices. To Paul's earlier point, which is very bizarre in Plainfield, say the school board defeats this at their meeting on, at 9 o'clock. And we approve it at 1 o'clock, they get it too. Absolutely, I mean, it is their committee.
Interesting.
So it is a very strange law, that I don't know what you do with it if you approve it. But the way we do our budgeting and the way we do our governance, you guys lose some power. The finance committee gets very powerful.
Yeah.
And if they're willing to do that work, good for them.
Right. Yes.
2 things. One,
Mike and then Dana.
I misspoke earlier, when I was talking about this, as if the whole finance committee had decided this. There may be some people on the finance committee would love this job.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not one of them.
Okay.
But I also don't think that the budget committee is going to actually create the whole budget. In my understanding of the process is they have the right to review, and then unlike the finance committee, tonight we have a perfect example. Finance committee had a recommendation based on the information we had, select board chose not to do that.
Yeah.
If we had a budget committee do that, the budget committee's decision holds.
Yeah.
And that's the real issue.
I'm gonna go with Dana and then you just, Dana said.
Mine's just, it's just a procedural question. How many towns in New Hampshire have a budget committee?
No.
Do you know, Maria?
They have the budget committee.
They don't have to.
No, they don't have to under SB2.
They don't have to, they can.
Yeah, they're separate
So
things.
I don't know.
I mean, it's an animal we're still trying to understand. We know less about it than we do SB2.
And do you know of any communities that govern?
I mean, I think Enfield has had a budget committee,
Yeah.
the official budget committee for years. Around that, they have oscillated back and forth between SB2.
Interesting.
So this is, if you talk to Jim Taylor or Rob Taylor, they're living in this world in Enfield now. And I know Jim has very strong opinions of it because he was in the office sharing them. So,
But he's not here sharing them. so,
Right.
Paul.
I think I had the same questions you did, Mike, about what's the interaction between the governing bodies, select board, school board, water and sewer district commissioners, and the budget committee, if one exists, and the statute, I thought was fairly clear on that. Those governing bodies are required to submit information to the budgeting committee.
That's the way I
And as our agency heads, if they need that to happen, but it's the budget committee that takes that information and massages it into the budget that is then proposed at town meeting.
That was helpful.
One of the interesting, I think that I found interesting, if you look at the statute that set this up said the legislature said they want to mimic this after the appropriations committee of the state legislature. It's a weird connection because in state government, the governor, the executive branch creates the budget, gives it to the legislature, and then the appropriation committees, budget committees in the Senate and the House do their thing with it, but they don't originate the budget. The executive branch does, the governing body like you folks do, you originate it. And here, the legislature yanks that away from the governing bodies themselves and creates this totally separate entity that they say is like the appropriation committee, which is in the legislative branch. And it's a weird analogy, which I had a hard time getting my head around. I agree. I think it's very unworkable. And especially and I agree, it doesn't have to be combined with SB2, but assume you're an SB2 town and you're a budget town. The budget committee has to propose the budgets for those, in our case, all those three entities. And they have to propose the default budgets for each one of those entities.
Yeah.
Help us all.
I mean, I guess I'll just say that, you know, for me, gosh, you know, we'll take any, I'll speak with you, for you, Lisa, and Ron, who's not here, but we'll take any help with the budget that we can get. I mean, you know, we will, you know, we're happy to have people come and talk about the budget and, well, right, and we're happy to have, but what I'm not clear on is, you know, we do put an awful lot of thought and time into the budget, both the select board, the advisory finance committee, Steve, for sure. So the work is getting done by people who care very much now about the budget. So I don't, you know, I guess this budget committee, I don't see in our community, this whole group of budget experts that are ready to come in, slide in and be this budget committee for the town and do much that's going to be a whole lot different. If they're trying their best for the town, which I think, you know, the groups that I've worked with have been. So I'm not quite sure. And boy, if those people are out there, I mean, Mike would love to hear from them for the finance committee. If there's people who are like, I have the answers and I'm happy to come do this. So that's where I'm kind of like, I don't know how this budget committee is going to operate any differently or have different outcomes than we do now. But anyway. But you know, I'm always happy to talk about and how we do things and why we do them. And I think that it's sort of a valuable exercise, but
Does
anyone out there have any either comments, questions about while we're in this budget committee hearing? Right, bring them on the 4th or bring them to town meeting. Other questions? I think that's our last agenda.
And the only other thing that we didn't talk about with SB2, just informational. Plainfield is still a very traditional New England town with a calendar fiscal year. So it becomes impossible to close your fiscal year on December 31st. Develop the warrant, the articles, have the deliberative session. Get the answers from the deliberative session, whatever amendments are made, if any, at the deliberative session, print the ballots. And meet on the second Tuesday of March. You just can't do those things. You can't get that done in time. We barely make town meeting and in terms of getting a report printed, getting the information in it and getting it back. You wouldn't even send the report until you'd had the done the report until you had the deliberative session, so you knew what to put in it.
So you're saying that we would have to actually change the fiscal year? of
Well, the
town.
vote, well, the voting, the law gives you choices. And so in the petitioned article that's in your warrant right now, and the petitioners envisioned that we would have to make some of those decisions. And so what I just want people to understand is that if we were to adopt SB2, we would vote, and I picked the earliest chance you could vote, but it means that shall we adopt the provisions of RSA 4013 known as SB2 to allow official voting on all issues before the town of Plainfield, said balloting to occur on the second Tuesday of April. So now we run almost 4 months, 3 months with a budget, you know, if you're a fiscal year, you vote on the new budget in April and it starts on July 1, like the school district does. We vote on it in March and it starts in July. Here, we're spending the appropriation all the way to April and then we vote on it. And so we would not gather on Tuesday in March anymore to vote. We would vote in April. And I guess if, remind me, moderator Taylor, our Taylor, Tom Franklin. It's only local voting on that Tuesday, right? We don't have state ballots.
Correct. Moderator's right there.
Is moderator Cassidy?
Yeah,
Oh, he is.
Cassidy.
Moderator Cassidy. And so we would, if we had to vote in March on something, it would be a separate vote, and then there would be another vote in April. And so it's just, you know, I just want people to understand that if we adopted SB2, we now approve the budget and the warrant in April, not in March.
And it started spending in January.
That we started spending on January 1st. That's right.
Could be, we are changing.
And I would be glad to have somebody else do that work.
Yeah.
Good for that. And I'm almost certainly it won't be me, which I'm very happy about.
Do you want to make a?
I move that we adjourn the meeting for tonight.
I will second that. All in favor, aye. Our meeting is adjourned with many, many thanks for all who joined us through
It's
Zoom
nice
and in
to see
person.
everybody here.
It really is. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. You're welcome anytime.
Yeah, really.
Be
Welcome
careful
back,
out there,
y'all.
folks. The roads are bad.
Yeah.
Oh, Mike. Thanks.
Thanks. There's a part that has you hung in for the whole.
Yeah, really.
It's appreciated. It's been there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to have the support.
And over it. I could say that, I'm only 3 years younger.
We had a snow in the shovel.
That's what it's through.
We still, hey, Steve?
Would be.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So that one, that's when I said one down three. Because we underspent the budget and had more revenue. So that was the net appropriation. That money,
Someone.
it never does, it shows on the balance sheet.